Welcome to the Groupthink Podcast. This has been our first recording since September, and I'm starting out well. I'm your host, Tyler, and let's kind of go down on the line because we got a big group today. So, starting there to my immediate left.
Yes, hello, I am Andrew. I've been on here a couple times, but just a couple times.
Okay, moving over to the Git chorus. We start with.
My name is AJ. And
Wait.
My story is similar.
Yes, and he's our semi-regular co-host of the Fox Valley Film Critics.
Co-host?
You've been on more than almost anyone else. So.
I wouldn't call it co-hosting.
Well, I'd say co-host is anyone that's
I feel
second
more
guest,
special as a guest.
Would you? We can argue about the term, but whatever makes you happy.
I've been there probably like half the episodes, so
Getting there.
maybe
Getting there. And then we have.
Yes, this is. I'm Joe. I've been here once on this show.
and he was
so-
quickly forgotten.
Yeah, that's pretty.
That's so sad.
That assumes most people remember this podcast because it's obviously terrible. So
This is a podcast?
and this leaves.
That explains it.
Sleeves Thomas. Hello.
Good. Now I remember all your names. That's a good way to start out the podcast. So this podcast has something of a. Me and AJ talked about this. We want this to kind of be our end of the year movie wrap up / award season controversy podcast of sorts. And so my thought was we kind of go through what we kind of saw this year, what we considered our favorite movies this year, and just kind of hash it out because I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with that in the last year movies. So everyone just fell asleep. This is bad.
I'm just looking at my list.
Yeah,
Same.
I'm developing that.
Way to prepare,
I
Andrew.
couldn't. You see, everyone was looking down, and my first thought was, everyone just fell asleep. This is going on. This is starting terribly. But anyway, so
I couldn't find my 7th movie. I've only seen 7 movies that came out this year.
I've seen
I had 6.
51.
and
I saw 68
gosh,
in
darn
theaters.
Yeah,
do 51 movies.
Oh jeez.
dude, yeah, I can't do this. But yeah, it's a quick list, but I somehow skipped over one. So.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Do you want to start then, since you kind of got a short
Is
one?
that second one?
Be a little easier to go through.
No.
How many of them do you actually
for some
like?
reason,
I ain't even seen that.
6.
Okay. Yeah, you're
Guardians of
kind
the
of.
Galaxy.
We're
Oh, I thought that's.
I'm trying to think. Let me go through this.
Before I got
I'd
Movie
say like
Pass,
6.
I think we were very similar in
I don't even
we'll go to
remember
the
what
theater
movies I've seen
almost
this year, I'll be
only
real.
if we know we're gonna like it.
That's generally my idea. Although, the one movie that I did not like, and in fact actively despise, is Pirates 5. And that one I was not expecting to like.
Okay, we can start with that because that was I think one of the movies that most aggravated me this year. So.
I was briefly
It's
considering
gone.
when AJ told me about this. I was briefly considering.
Uh.
Thank you.
He's briefly considering burping.
Incisive commentary from the group.
I was briefly considering watching 4 movies so that I didn't have to put that on my top 10 movies of 2017.
Oh man.
Why didn't you? You
I didn't have
were going
time.
back to college and stuff.
Yeah, I was going back to college. I didn't have time. And then I was thinking I would have time at least to watch Beauty and the Beast today. But then I texted you and you were like, it's happening in an hour. And I was like, that's not enough time to watch Beauty and the Beast.
Beauty and the Beast was very average in my opinion.
And I was expecting it to be, but I was like, at least it'd be better than Pirates 5.
That is.
Which it was, ironically, but.
Beauty and the Beast is number 47 on my list.
Wow, you ranked even those. I haven't even ranked them. I just have a list. and I'm like, all right,
I
don't
rank
remember what
every
I seen.
movie I've seen within the year. It's sad.
I threw Beauty and the Beast on my okayest movies of 2017 list. So
I should reference that because there were a couple movies that you called just okay that there were like 1 or 2 that I really didn't like and 1 or 2 that I think made my top 10.
I would add the caveat that Murder in the Orient Express and Mother movies I liked, but I just felt like there was
For real?
they didn't quite earn their way on
Two
to
phones?
say something to add it to a runners-up position. So I thought okayest was basically the only level I could put them at that wouldn't overcomplicate the list.
Did you
So
put Okja on your okayest list?
that was on my to-watch list.
Okay,
'Cause
that is my second worst of this year.
You didn't like Okja?
I will slap you.
You probably watched it because it's the same guy as Snowpiercer, right? He just smiled.
Multiple reasons. It is on my top 10.
Oh, this is
Where's yours?
Fight!
This is gonna be
Fight!
fun.
Fight! Okay.
it's number 50 on my list of 51.
See, I'm
Oh.
absolutely the most normie guy here because outside of
Yeah, I don't know about that.
literally outside of Pirates 5 and Star Wars, all the movies I saw were superhero movies.
Oops.
Way to contribute to the
I didn't
movie
know.
economy.
I didn't know in 2017 that I would be doing this.
Yeah.
If
No,
I
it's
had known, I
fine.
would have tried to.
No,
No, you-
I still want to hear what you have to say because I think that having perspectives is good with this sort of thing. Me and AJ just did 2 episodes of my talk show this morning, and
I was only on one.
well, yeah, you were audience for one of them. But during the second episode, we had a girl who went into a rather lengthy digression on why Lady Bird was emotionally like powerful to her.
Right?
Anyway, and she was like, "I'm sorry if that's a personal story," and I just turned to her and she's like, "No, that's great. I like personal stories because these things are personal to you." So I think that even if it's just a normie perspective, it's fine. Just add to the chorus.
Well, I don't even really know a lot about a lot of those other movies. And part of it is because I'm more of a video game person, so like I will go all in for all sorts of.
Well, I'll have you for the E3 coverage this year then.
That'd be fantastic. I'd be super down with that.
I've been doing.
I mostly just do Nintendo, but I mean, I pay attention to Sony as well. So.
I've done E3 coverage podcasts, I think, for 2 years now.
You're what?
I did the first one we did was a live reaction podcast where we recorded every segment after the thing, and it turned into the most horrifying cluster in the history of podcasts
I imagine it would.
because we did it over the course of 2 days, and by the end of the recording, everyone hated each other. So there was all sorts of drama, and it was a mess. And then it took a month to edit it, and
Oh dang.
so it was late and a mess. But I think the end recording was
Such a
all right,
might.
but
Yeah.
it was really hard to kind of make it decisive. You guys are on microphone.
I'm sorry.
I'm not editing anything you say out.
Good.
I don't care.
Good. This is a public service announcement. Hey, can I shout out someone right now?
Sure.
Elon Musk. That's Elon Musk empowering all of our stuff. Keep rocking them batteries. You know what I'm
Anyway.
saying?
Let's kind of break into the main segment of this because we've been going at this for 10 minutes now. But so Andrew has the shortest list of the bunch.
I have the shortest list. So yeah, dead last has to be Pirates 5. It was just awful.
It is. There's
I mean, I could go into why it's awful, but that would be spending more time than it's worth.
I will say this: there are 2 set piece scenes I liked. The rest is completely a wash. Like I like the scene where they rob a bank by literally stealing the bank, but
That's cool, except it's like
Very
there are so many things like physics-wise that would never happen, and then there's so many like the building just straight up turns, and there's no reason for it to turn.
You can't really hold Pirates of the Caribbean to the laws of reality.
I can do it when it's lazy.
That's fair.
Because, like, there are lots of things that happen in Pirates of the Caribbean and you're like, that could not happen.
here's the thing.
But at least, like, it's something where it's like, I'm pretty sure that couldn't happen, but I'll need to, like, do some studying on, like, angles and stuff like that to make sure that it couldn't happen. Whereas this one is just like, that. No.
Here's the thing.
That doesn't.
Yeah.
That's not how this works.
Pirates of the Caribbean is a great movie series when it's restrained. So
It was restrained.
when the first movie, yeah.
The first movie, I would say.
it's
So, although I
It's
would
an Errol,
say,
it's an Errol Flynn movie with supernatural elements, really. That's pretty much all it is.
I would say Pirates 3
I'd say
Yeah.
Douglas
was
Fairbanks.
kind of off the rails, and it's still fantastic, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's my favorite of the bunch.
I think
I
the
would
one
agree
where
with
they
that.
started. I think the one where they started going into the lore more than the storytelling is when the series went off the rails. But that started with 2. So
That started with 2, yeah, no, definitely. And I hate 2. Not as much as 5, but I hate
2 has the Kraken scene, which
Really?
is great, but
The Kraken scene
It's
is...
2 of the best scenes, I think, in the series.
See, to me, when I think of Pirates of the Caribbean, I think of the Maelstrom scene. And nothing can top that, in my mind, in
But
the rest
when
of
they're
the series.
fighting on the wheel, that's a great scene.
That's dope.
That's a great
That's
scene.
fair. I just, like, because I don't like that movie, I kind of...
That's
Get
understandable.
rid of
It's the
everything.
weakest
It
of
took-
the first 3.
It took me watching that movie like 6 times for me to finally be like, oh, I feel like I understand what the plot is doing now.
okay.
That's not what a movie
Moving on
should
to
do.
the next one then.
The next one would probably be Spider-Man.
Spooderman.
I didn't actually take a whole lot of time to like sort these in order, so I might change up some of these if I put more thought into it. But I thought it was fun. I didn't think it was anything revolutionary. It felt fairly safe. A lot of things I was worried about in terms of Iron Man stealing the plot and stealing all of the thunder, I didn't feel like happened nearly to the degree that I was worried it would. And so I give it a lot of credit for that.
I think they underutilized him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was really cool how he was present for when Peter was not at his full strength, you know, not at his full potential. And then the movie did a very good job of forcing Peter to become Spider-Man to a degree that in a lot of ways happened. Not all credit to Iron Man, but Iron Man was kind of really the father figure that spurned him on and gave
The
him
uncle
that.
figure, if you will.
The uncle figure, yeah. I didn't necessarily want to say that. I thought that might be a little bit sad and a little
I
bit...
did.
I thought it was weird that they never really referenced Uncle Ben at all in this new version.
Yeah.
He really didn't want to talk about it.
Well, it's frustrating too because it's
Disney
something
vibe.
where I feel like at this point they almost can't, because you've gone 2 movies involving Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and not talking about Uncle Ben. How do you do that now?
At this point, it's known that he's not here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you lose a huge amount of the dramatic weight of the character if he is not feeling guilty for making a huge mistake.
But if everybody, I understand that it's a huge part of his motivation that you're missing, but everybody kind of already knows that.
I don't think we need a new story, a new backstory.
That's what
I'm saying.
It's like
I don't
telling
think we
another.
need
But
that,
a
You just
action
need to
movie.
reference it.
But yeah,
That's fair.
referencing it, having it be a presence on his mind, because at this point,
It's in Civil War though. They reference it vaguely.
They do reference it vaguely, but it's
yeah.
not. It's not a part of his person. It's not something that really I feel like
He has that amazing.
impacts him.
He has that amazing line where he's telling Iron Man, "It's like when you have the ability to do something and you don't do it, then the bad things that happen are unintentionally your fault."
That's a paraphrase of a Bible quote.
It's a paraphrase of
Probably, yeah.
With great power comes great
Yeah,
responsibility.
it's both. I mean,
Yeah.
Stan Lee's Jewish, so not surprising. But
So he took
it's
from James.
New Testament. Yeah. It's James.
yeah, fair point. Otherwise, moving on from Spider-Man.
Moving on from Spider-Man, I'd probably throw Wonder Woman there.
Okay.
I thought Wonder Woman was pretty okay, which, you know, for a DCEU movie is fantastic. But I felt like people really went overboard with how much praise they heaped on that movie.
Because this is an
It's
audio
it's
show.
important. I will say this: I've met a lot of people who just.
It should be known that Thomas just flipped me off.
Yes.
Of course he did. I would
Twice
say
now.
I have met a lot of people for whom that movie has resonated like fantastically, and I'm very happy for them because.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
If it impacted you, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I just felt like as a
Wonder Woman
movie, it was
really
not as
impacted
good as
me
a lot of
today.
people made it out to be.
As I told AJ today, the thing about Wonder Woman is 1/3 of it is the best DC movie that's ever been made. The other 2/3 of it are the laziest.
Well,
DCEU.
it's hard
DC
for
in
me-
general. I would say 1/3 of it is almost as good as like.
I'm sorry, but any Superman movie is the most lazy DC movie.
Oh come on, Christopher Reeves.
Screw Superman. bro.
He's so lazy. He sat down for the second half of his life.
For those of you that want to hear more
Wow.
on this conversation,
Hold on. Hey Kakarot, what's the opposite of Christopher Walken? Christopher Reeves. That's a terrible taste.
for those of you who want to hear more on this,
Don't
on
care.
Thomas's opinion
Evil.
on Superman, check out the debate starring Tyler Hall.
Oh my
and
gosh,
Thomas
that's
Franklin.
a throwback.
Oh.
Yeah, no, Superman as a character is
That's how you
terrible.
plug.
And I think
the debate for which I was 4 hours prepared for
oh my
that.
gosh.
Hey, I was too. Hey, I did the same.
And you guys got
I only
like,
prepared that night.
you guys got like 50% approval on each side of the 2 people that voted.
Yeah, we never really got a full tally on that, but anyway,
I thought it was a decent debate.
I would say
never
Wonder
listened to
Woman.
it.
How dare you? Wasn't I there for that? I
Which?
can't remember.
I wanted
No, the
to
debate
be.
was Justin was the moderator.
No, he was the moderator, but I think you had like 4 people in the audience, and I think I was one of them.
Did we have an audience? I thought no one showed up to that. But...
I wasn't there, and I was
there, right,
there was an
Thomas?
audience.
There was an audience for a bit. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I probably left at some point, but I remember I was there for at least like the setting up period because I remember like Justin like on a whiteboard.
Yep.
With things in the lighthouse. Anywho, Wonder Woman was good. The best, out of Man of Steel, Batman v Superman. I haven't seen Justice League or Suicide Squad, but I've heard that those were kind of meh.
Justice League is like meh the movie.
Hits
So.
the heart tonight,
That's
dude.
fair.
It takes off.
Actually, I
entirely
will say
agree
this:
with Suicide
meh is
being
the
meh.
highest praise I have heard of Suicide Squad.
I want to talk about Justice League.
That's where I'm
can we
at.
make a quick digression about Justice League?
Absolutely.
We probably should now, since I doubt it's gonna make a top 10.
Yo,
of
you
any
No.
list.
I might bring it up when I do my worst list.
Oh
but-
no!
So here's my problem
Oh,
with
yeah,
Justice
worst
League.
list?
Everyone
I don't
dislikes
think it would make
Batman
that
vs
either for
Superman.
me.
Everyone dislikes Batman vs Superman for obvious reasons because it doesn't work. But I think it's a really interesting movie, like theoretically. Like because there's a lot of really interesting like meditations on the nature of gods and the nature of man.
Oh,
and
it's definitely really interesting from a philosophical perspective. If it worked better.
And you can tell like
What are we talking about?
Batman v Superman.
yeah, and you can tell that they were clearly. It's not a well done movie, but there's a lot of ideas in it.
Mm.
You can tell that they were clearly trying to set up an idea for Justice League parts 1 and 2, where part 1 was going to be Superman is resurrected by Steppenwolf and then he's essentially made into the villain and as the worst possible version of the characters, so essentially as an Injustice parallel. And then part 2 would have been the Dark Side film, I think. But which would have been kind of a continuation of the idea of like how does humanity respond if a literal god came down and started living amongst us in the modern world, which is kind of an interesting.
They crucify him.
More or less, but
I feel like that's a reference to something.
I would forget. I don't know.
Oh yeah, Jesus. Did you guys see the Nostalgia Critic review for Man of Steel?
I didn't.
You should-
I don't watch Nostalgic Critic.
You should
anymore.
watch that because there's got a lot of good jokes in that. But yeah, Justice League had the opportunity to be very interesting had they continued that. But it's really clear that DC editorial was just like, no, throw all that stuff out. We're not interested in it. We're gonna cut it down to one movie. We're gonna kick Darkseid out. We're gonna make a jokey Avengers like offshoot, and it's gonna be fun and colorful, and it's just. But we're still gonna keep the dark visuals from the movies. So.
Piercing. That's
Just
fair.
ignore the neighbors working construction. So, instead of getting an interesting movie, we got a bland Justice League movie, which I think that annoys me more than anything else about that movie.
We're still talking about
Justice League.
Oh,
now.
okay.
I don't
you
think we
switched.
were ever talking about the
No,
Andrew.
Shut your face. Yeah, well, that's what it started out as, and then somehow it bridged the gap, and I was lost. But I kind of understand, maybe. I don't know.
Surface tab.
But yeah, no, I
Surface tab.
enjoyed
Right before I left.
Wonder Woman, and that's what I have to say about that. And now I need to get my list to be going on to more things.
Yeah. Sorry about that digression.
I
missed it.
problem.
I wanted to get that out before I forgot to do that.
Good music in Justice League, though. I think that was the best Danny Elfman's done in a little while.
Sure. Well, he did
Since
Age of
Home Alone.
Ultron too, so.
He did not do Home Alone.
He did The Simpsons.
Okay, that was a while ago.
He came up with this. I thought it was weird. He came up with the Simpson theme. So,
He's a weird composer.
but yeah, Andrew,
Quickly,
give Andrew your attention.
So
I'm good.
next,
This is my detention.
I
my
think I'm
attention.
gonna-
I'm gonna throw something at you.
I think I'm gonna throw in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Ayo.
Hey, daylight come and you won't.
It's interesting because it's definitely a more like critically you could rip that movie apart because there are lots of very obvious plot things and just kind of it's a more cliched movie. That being said, it's very, at least when I was watching it, it was very emotionally satisfying.
You found it a cliche? You found it cliche?
Yeah.
His
I
face.
would say it was cliche in quite a few moments. The story was a lot more obvious
I thought it was
than
the
the first one.
I thought it was one of the best Marvel movies, like since Captain Winter Soldier. So
Yeah, I was reading your blog post about that, and I was confused by it. But it's still like it's very good.
I have a long-standing feud with my uncle about that movie, but
Go continue.
I'm gonna put on the headphones and hear what you're saying.
Civil War was 2016.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
17.
Oh gosh.
Did I say Civil War or Winter Soldier?
17.
You said Winter
You
Soldier.
said Winter I was confused because I was.
That's why
I
I,
like
shook
Winter
my
Soldier.
head so vehemently.
I like Winter Soldier more than Civil War.
I like almost every
disagree
Marvel
with that.
movie before.
I'm in
Civil
agreement
War.
with Tyler on this one. I'm in agreement with you on this one.
Civil
Okay.
War is my
Winter
favorite
Soldier
MCU
is by
movie.
far,
It's
in
so
my opinion,
bad,
the best
though.
Marvel
You're
movie ever
wrong.
made.
Well, I would say the caveat that I think the Guardians of the Galaxy movies are kind of on par with that, but it's hard to kind of gauge it because those are space movies. But
Yeah, it's a very different genre and a very different feel that you can't necessarily. It's not a one-to-one comparison.
yeah, I think I would defend Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 on the grounds that it's working off of a really difficult idea. It's trying to be this really. It's trying to be a meditation on a lot of different ideas, and I think the moment it hits that the shocking reveal towards the end, I think it basically it works 100% to the end. Because
Is it really shocking though?
That's actually when it fell apart to me.
You thought so?
I thought the end was kind of.
Because it's thematically appropriate.
Yeah.
It's part of
Like,
Star-Lord realizing he needs to become a better person, and him trying to reconcile his relationship with Rocket and Yondu.
And I
But
would,
it-
I would say like
Tom,
it is one of the most satisfying movies that I've ever
Is
seen
that why
in
you're
terms
so
of like
confused?
there are lots of things. Like I say, it's cliche, but it's cliche in a really good way. It's cliche in like from the beginning. I could
This whole
have
house, Tyler.
written an outline of the plot,
Yeah,
but it nailed every one of those bullet points so well that like I really like it, but I just wished it had been something I wasn't
count, right?
expecting. In a similar vein as Guardians 1.
Which that's the superhero genre at this point. Like it's obviously working off the basic setup of a superhero movie, but
Yeah.
but it's how it does it that
Yeah, no, it's a great movie. I don't disparage anyone from saying it's a great movie.
are we gonna
Well, great in 2017. Like
are we gonna forget? Lest we forget that in the age of the safe blockbuster, James Gunn made a movie that the final shot of the film is a raccoon crying.
yeah,
I think that's a lot of. He deserves a lot of credit for that.
And it works. That's
Exactly.
yeah. No, both Guardians films work really well.
It's a robotic raccoon.
I would
cry.
say that
It's a
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper raccoon cry.
I would say that
None of this
that
makes sense anymore.
They're both among my favorite Marvel movies.
Anymore?
I
Shut up,
do
dude.
wish that Guardians 2 surprised me more. And that's why I put it a little bit lower on the list. In fairness, it's 4 out of 7. I mean, and granted, it's not a good point, but everything except for Pirates 5, I've really enjoyed. I just didn't enjoy it as much as some other people genuinely did.
some wrong
Sure.
people. But
Yeah. Oh boy.
I think he was talking about Guardians.
I was talking about Guardians, yeah.
So you
But-
just called
I
yourself wrong.
No, I was talking about Pirates. Pirates is wrong. Guardians is great.
I'm genuinely
I see.
confused by people who
Forgot
think that
that
Pirates
I
5 is an acceptable movie.
I know people are just like, I just want to see action
Was that
movies.
all I
You know
should
what's a
name?
better pirate movie?
That's
Both?
two.
I
That's
know
two
you will
you've
both.
seen, too. So that's
Both?
two you've seen.
Muppets Treasure
I
Island.
seen like 5 movies.
That was a
Hey,
fantastic pirate
I
movie.
like.
I seen like
Yeah.
5 movies.
It is one of my favorite Treasure
In my
Island
life.
adaptations. It's like Treasure Planet.
Really?
Muppet Treasure
Yes.
Island.
Above Muppet Treasure Island?
I don't know, but probably.
Maybe this is the controversial favorite Muppet movie.
Muppet's Christmas Carol.
It has to be.
I think the reboot one is my favorite, honestly.
Are you?
You drunk,
It
son?
sells Muppets if you haven't seen it before.
I should say I
That's
don't
probably
dislike
true.
it, but
It's probably
compared
number,
to
it's probably
the
number 3 for me.
I'd never seen Muppets before I watched it, and I loved Muppets after I watched it. So
I don't know.
I mean, it
I
has
was-
an amazing song that I love,
I think it's like 5 or 6 good songs.
I'm specifically
Are we talking about the
Man or
Muppet Show theme song?
Am I a man or a Muppet?
It's so good.
Written by
It's so
Flight of
good.
the Conchords.
Muppet of a
It's
Man.
on
whatever
Spotify, and I
his name
listen
is.
to it on a regular basis on Spotify. I love it. I love it so
What an
much.
I can
Oscar.
attest to this.
We can fight about the Muppet movie another time, but
Can we do it now?
no.
I know it's.
We don't have this many hours in the day.
Fight, fight,
Yeah,
fight,
we can.
So many good songs.
We got
in that
enough hours.
franchise.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I gotta be places.
Neither do I. I was just saying though. Like,
I don't have
Well,
to be
good
in
for
Alright.
you.
Your numero 3.
All right, number 3.
thank you.
I'm gonna give it to Star Wars.
Yeah.
I probably, if you'd asked me before I saw it for the 3rd time,
Whoa.
I probably would have said that it was number 2.
Damn.
But I'm coming to the existential crisis of realizing that this is the same conflict from the prequel trilogy. It hasn't stopped,
Well,
and it will never stop.
oh yeah. Keep in mind also that if you're an
Yeah,
expanded universe fan, then the conflict has been going on for 1,000 years, going back to the Old Republic.
I can't.
I mean, Star Wars is kind of a story about cycles of violence.
Yeah.
So it's
which parallels real life.
Well, like I don't mind a war by any means in fiction. I should say. More wars. No. My
To war
issue
with
has
Spain.
more to do with when I was until recently I was under the impression that the prequel wars happened and then the Empire was established and then the Empire after that began the other war that was the original trilogy wars. And then after the Empire was taken down in the original trilogy, there was some time of peace, and then the new trilogy wars began. And I'm just realizing now that no, this is the exact same conflict.
Technically-
it never ended.
when I read I read a couple of the expanded universe novels. Essentially, the war stopped for a significant period, and the New Republic was formed, and the First Order took some time to rebuild. So it wasn't like there was non-stop conflict for 30 years. It was that they had to that they were in the background after the Battle of Jakku. So
All right, I mean,
if that helps,
it helps a little bit. I just now that
the movies don't explain that at any point.
they don't, and also with especially when you have the Clone Wars taking place in between 2 and 3, and then you have Darth Vader coming to fruition at the end. Like it felt like there was just nonstop conflict, and I'm just like, now that Disney is in control, there will never be resolution.
Well, it wouldn't be.
Yes and no.
It wouldn't be Star Wars if there wasn't a war, though.
Suppose
if there was peace, it would be Star Peace.
I don't mind.
Or Star Trek.
I don't
Yeah.
mind there being a war. I just wish that there was some
Can
sort
we
of
make
like,
that a movie, dog?
Star
Piece?
pieces
Piece.
are worth a
It'll be a-
thousand
I was-
golden in Pokemon.
It'll just be the last shot of A New Hope.
I will never stop talking about Pokemon.
Telling
Oh my
Thomas
gosh.
to
Anyway.
stop talking.
Shut
about
up!
I don't mind there being movies centered around a war. I don't mind there being like a second war in Star Wars. I would just want
Sorry.
the war that they established to be over at some point, maybe.
And then a new
Supposedly they're
that
gonna.
has nothing to do with Episode 8.
Well,
that just has to do with the Star
Yeah,
Wars
yeah,
as
yeah.
a whole.
I
Yeah.
think what irked me most about that is Star Wars, but there's only been one war.
Well, yeah, I mean that's part of it too. Is there is kind of
Like within the movies.
otherwise it's just Star
been,
Battles.
Clone
It's
Wars.
called Star Battles. Which
The Clone
that sounds like a fun,
Wars,
like,
the Imperial.
the Clone War never ended though. It's
the
still
Imper-
going.
it's a different name for the
Technically
same
in
concept.
Yeah.
Technically, in Rebels, they made a canonical end the Clone Wars. Like,
Rebels does not count.
you don't like Rebels at all?
No.
Isn't
I like
that
the first three
it's
and two and a half seasons, but I like the first 2.5 seasons of it. Then
It's
it got
about
boring,
as canon as The Force Unleashed,
which is no longer canon.
Battlefront,
which was declared to be canon when it first came out.
Yeah,
but it's
no,
not
it's not.
anymore. Battlefront is still canon.
Yeah.
Which one?
All of them, I believe.
There's 4 Battlefront games now.
No, there's 2 Battlefront games.
2 good ones.
There's two good.
There's
there's
two real ones.
There's
There's two
there's
real
two
ones.
real ones, and then there's Battlefield Front.
But
There's
here's
one
the
that you pay
thing.
for
Here's the
again
thing.
And again and again and again.
The story of the first 2 Battlefront games isn't controversial. So it's just about a soldier. So it's not like it's like a hugely controversial canon. So
Anyway,
Whatever.
on to the actual movie of Star Wars Episode 8. It's good. It is very good.
The internet hates you now.
The internet does hate you now.
Half of it.
The wrong half.
All you people who despise me can fuck off. I just.
Mom.
I should mention these are my friends from church. So.
I'm
I almost shouted
surprised
on her
that,
too.
that I'm the first one who verbalized a swear word on this podcast. I would have thought it would.
Keyword verbalized.
Yeah, verbalized.
I like how Stephanie asks if she can swear on TV today, and you just drop that in the middle. Not that I care, but
This is a podcast.
Yeah, this is somewhat
There are
less
no
formal.
rules.
it's
Are
YouTube.
there
All the
rules?
rules exist.
Oh, that's true. Oh man, I swear.
Logan Paul.
Demonetized.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna get demonetized.
I don't get money at all, so
There
I
goes
don't.
a cent.
Wah,
No, I
wah.
genuinely don't like. Star Wars Episode 8 is objectively not an awful movie.
Objectively so.
Like, like, I don't care. You can dislike how it fits into the Star Wars as a whole. You can say, oh man, it didn't match up with my fan fiction. But that's mostly what these fans are saying, is like, oh, I had a fan fiction that Luke Skywalker was gonna, like...
Do exactly what he does at the end of the movie.
Well,
but the whole movie.
yeah, like, they just thought it was gonna be Luke Skywalker the movie. And it's like, no, that's not, no.
Your
you're
headcanon
stupid.
isn't real.
And people are like, oh man, he's not prequel trilogy Luke. And I'm like, yeah, he's gone through tribulation after tribulation. It makes sense that he would become a cynical person who wouldn't want the Jedi to continue, especially because when he was in the prequel trilogy, he was told the lies of Obi-Wan Kenobi of the good things that the Jedi were responsible for. And then now he knows all of their shortcomings from the prequels and everything else, and it's like, oh, the Jedi are kind of useless. Maybe we should stop this.
It's almost like he's a character that grows.
Exactly. They're like, why isn't Luke Skywalker, 30 years later? Why isn't Luke Skywalker 30 years later exactly the same Luke Skywalker as 30 years earlier?
Well, the alternative would be you get Han Solo in Return of the Jedi, who literally has nothing to do the whole time except pretend keep being cool, because his story arc's over at that point. So
Yeah.
you could just have it be doing. You could have Mark Hamill doing that the whole time.
Yeah.
I do like sarcastic Luke Skywalker.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
fantastic.
I think-
cynical, sarcastic Luke Skywalker is one of my favorite things, and I feel like they did more justice to his character in Episode 8 than they did to Han Solo's character in Episode 7.
Yeah, a bit.
So, I mean, it's yeah. Episode 8 is good. I don't care what you say. You're wrong if you say it's bad.
I agree that it's good. I think the best thing that happened out of that movie was my headcanon came.
Well,
And
I'd
that
also
Ray
say-
came from absolutely nowhere. It's like, thank you.
Yeah, that's
Thank you so much.
Although-
Do you guys actually believe that?
If you watch the
I don't
movie
think they're
again,
gonna stick to it.
if you
I honestly
watch
don't
the
think they're
movie
gonna stick
again,
to it.
she's the one who admits it.
Who?
She is the one who admits it.
Who?
Ray, she
Ray
admits
is
it
the one
right
that
away.
says it. Yeah.
When
She
he
admits
says
that
you
it's been nagging her.
Yeah, well, no, she admits that they were nothing.
Well, she
They were
says
nobody.
they're nothing.
She doesn't know.
He says you know.
Yeah,
And, so
and he
it's-
told her to say
it's-
it, and she
it's-
said they were nobody.
Yeah, but I
So
don't,
she knew that the whole time.
Also, if you
I don't
don't
think
like,
they're gonna stay with that though.
I don't think they're gonna stick with it.
I hope they do.
Jay-
I hope they do.
I also
don't
agree.
think
I
they
hope they do.
I think Abrams is going to
I think
backtrack
they
like
will.
Oblivion to Oblivion and just make a big bombastic third part.
They were
Which is a
nobody,
bit
but
of
I
a
have this
shame.
ridiculously long bloodline of, like, I come from Darth Crate. Okay.
I thought they were going to do the her being the reincarnation of Darth Vader deal, but
That would have been really cool.
No. Not have been really cool.
well, because then at least it plays with the idea that she's like
I think
like an unnatural force spirit that's reborn through time and just kind of brought to rise when the moment of need. So
I think it would have been really cool because of the fact that Ben Solo is the only interesting character that they've introduced. So when you add that's another thing for him to play off of with Rey, is that Ben wants to be the reincarnation of Darth Vader. He wants to be the new Darth Vader. And then you've got this...
cheese.
Yeah, exactly. I think that would be an interesting component to his character, because I already don't care about Rey. So...
I would say that I think that having her not
harsh.
That's pretty much the only answer they could have given. I've heard some critics say that like the only answer that could have been given that would have been interesting is just that she doesn't have any meaning because they built up the fact that she's meaningful the whole time. So if they had given an answer, it would have been disappointing regardless.
No, absolutely.
I think fans built up that she was meaningful. I don't think
Well-
the movies really did much.
they imply something.
Just drop the fact, and
they implied this vast mystery behind it.
They showed a flashback of her being left as a child, implying that there's more to that story.
But
yes.
it's
but fans
the mystery
took that
box
to a place.
of course.
I think that the big thing there is that when when episode 4 first came out, like Luke he was just some random kid on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, we all know that's not true, but like he was like the story just started off with this random kid on a farm, and Rey's just like this random person on another desert planet, and I like that
symmetry.
I like the symmetry, and according to us so far, she comes from nowhere.
Yeah.
And she has, like, her parents, like, yeah, they're nobody.
So wait, you're saying episodes 7 and 4 had similarities?
I'm shocked, good sir.
Oh, I'm glad
Shocked.
you said that. Ah.
I think we should kind of finish up on Star Wars and keep going.
Episode 8. I maintain that probably the three most epic parts of Star Wars cinematic canon happened in episode 8, being the light speed shot.
Yes.
Yes.
That was dope.
Yes.
The what are they called? ATM 6s? Is that what they are?
You mean the Gorilla Walkers?
The Gorilla Walkers.
No more than I do.
That shot with, or that scene
At
with
the moment,
Luke
16.
Skywalker and the throne. You know, it's
Those are good ones. I would disagree on that front, because there's the Duel of the Fates, which is amazing.
the Duel of the Fates is
And
amazing.
Anakin
I feel
and-
like it's ruined by Darth Maul not dying.
I would say this: the Darth Maul fight has the best moment of the entire, like the Darth Maul fight has the best acting moment of the entire prequel trilogy, and it's really understated moment. It's the moment where they're waiting behind the bars.
Yeah.
And I like it because someone pointed out to me, it's great because it's the only moment in the entire movie where the characters have to express emotion without saying anything.
Yeah.
So
that's true.
Darth Maul's impatient. Liam Neeson is Liam Neeson's very patient, and Obi-Wan's ready to kick his butt.
Yeah.
So
Can I also add into your epic moments the fight between Luke and Kylo Ren? I thought that was
That's what I was
excellent.
referring to
I-
with
that-
the ATM 6s.
Like
I was
the
referring to that whole
whole
scene.
sequence.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought that movie was a little underdeveloped, but it was good.
I like that scene. I love that scene when I first saw it, and every single time I've seen it, it gets better.
Sure.
Specifically when you know, spoiler alert, Luke's not actually there. He's an astral projection.
Boy.
Which they do.
I burp at that, sir.
That's a good moment though, because if Luke had
and it's
Luke
well
had been
established. Like, so the
Very
first time
much so.
I thought it was a little bit frustrating, because I was like, why do you shoot the scene that way if he's not actually there? And then I was seeing in some of the previous scenes and bits, it's like, oh, they actually do kind of hint that he's not really there, and that's
Like
super
he leaves
cool.
no sand trail.
Yeah,
That's the coolest.
Although that is something that bothers me, because the previous shots established that entire place is rubble, and it's all red, and then suddenly the shot switches back and there's white stuff in the field. So it's like,
it might have settled a bit, or they walked to a different place, but I'm
no,
not
it's
sure.
the same. It's the same spot. I do
Yeah.
specific. Yeah, it's a little bit of incontinuity there.
I would say to people who
I've
don't
only
like
seen
that
it once,
reveal,
so I didn't-
the alternative is Kylo Ren kills Luke Skywalker, and now we have to deal with the fact that Kylo Ren is now responsible for every single major character in the franchise dying. So, which would be slightly
Not
tedious. If he's responsible for every character dying, then he becomes fundamentally unsalvageable as a character.
I don't know about
I
that.
feel like he already is at this point. Though.
He's there's still a hint. Like you could.
There's still a hint.
I have no
just
words.
feel like I am going to be dissatisfied. Actually, I'm going to be dissatisfied with any way they resolve this Star Wars trilogy. I can't think of an aspect in which I'd be like, oh yeah, that's good. Just
We'll
because
see.
of everything that they've established about it.
They have the writer for Justice League doing on this, and they're writing for episode 9. So
Oh, good.
he's the guy who did Argo, and then immediately turned around and did Batman versus Superman. So I have very mixed feelings about this
Why-
fellow.
Didn't Ben Affleck write Argo?
I hate
He had a help
Superman
with it
so
from a
much.
screenwriter. So, but
Anyway, it's good, and if you don't think it's good, screw your face.
I have
Ew.
one last story I want to tell on this because it's been on my
Okay,
mind
yeah,
for a while. It's nothing to do with the movie itself. It's the way the actors like regard the script. Back when The Force Awakens came out, Anthony Daniels went in public and said, "I think that Episode 7 is the best movie in the entire franchise."
Really?
Yeah.
It's a good way to
And
promote a
so
movie.
immediately it came out. Everyone liked it for a little bit, and then the public attention started to turn a little bit. In the build-up to Episode 8, Mark Hamill has very publicly come out against the film and said, "This isn't my vision for the character. I don't like where he went. And all this stuff." I think this movie, the last two Star Wars movies, have given me a great disdain for the opinions of actors.
Oh, absolutely.
So if an actor
I've
doesn't
had that for a long
an
time.
actor doesn't know what the heck is happening in the movie, I think that might make the movie better.
I think Mark Hamill was just expressing his. I think what you just said is perfectly fine for him to say. It didn't go the way he expected it to go.
No, I just thought that was my thought when I first heard that he didn't like it. Was that okay? The director has a vision that he's taking it, as opposed to we're making a movie that's fan service and the actor just enjoyed being part of the process.
Yeah. Well, and I would say I don't mind you voicing your opinion on a movie. I don't think you should do it before the movie launches.
It's not like it hurt the movie's
timing
performance.
was kind of bad.
But I just feel like it throws in an expectation that, I mean, I suppose it's up to people to control that. But when I saw that, I was like, I don't mind him hating his role. I mean, I do kind of, because I think his role was pretty good.
They made him drink blue milk.
That's the worst part of the movie.
Yeah.
You know what? I will say this.
That part and
Are you gonna say the
Rose.
casino? Oh.
I don't mind the casino as a whole.
I also didn't.
But
I
I
will-
hate Rose.
I will
Anything
de-
Rose does is awful.
I will defend. I will defend
Well, that's a
the.
little, yeah, it's a little.
I will defend the milk scene on one account. I think it's the Last Jedi's equivalent of the scene where Yoda makes Luke eat the bizarre food in the cabin, because it's supposed to establish that they're hermits.
Do you need
Yeah.
that to
Yeah.
establish it?
And
though?
the weird creature that they linger on for a little too long.
It's so weird,
He gives
man.
Rey the sex eyes. Why does he give Rey the sex eyes?
As Psychic Pebbles would call it, he gives her the F me eyes.
Yes, I was gonna say that, but I've already used up.
No, I like that
my
term. I
swear.
think it's hilarious.
All right.
Damn, he's got a swear limit.
I've used up my quota. I blew it on this.
You going to hell, boy?
Next movie.
Next movie. I have to pull up my list again.
Yeah, we got a lot.
For well,
I've got
Thor
50
Ragnarok.
I've got 51 to go through. No.
I'm gonna establish the rules going forward. Okay. Well, after you're done with your list.
Okay, Thor Ragnarok. It's number 2. It was good.
It's
Oh.
amazing.
It was just like, it didn't care. It just wanted to have fun, and it was fun, and I liked it. And that's all I have to say about it. It was just
Fucking hilarious, dude.
Stupid YouTube videos or Facebook video, but go on.
I think that's all I have to say about Thor Ragnarok. Honestly.
There's not much more
There's
to say.
There's
than
not
just
much
fun.
to say.
It's just fun.
Yeah, it's
It's
a good movie.
I would say
It's a nice breather before Infinity
Why do you
War.
guys say
I would
that
give.
word?
I want to give Taika Waititi a bit of a shout out because I think he's been an amazing director. And I've seen both of his other recent movies, but I'm glad he's broken out and now people are starting to look at him for like other blockbuster options. Apparently, he does want to do more Thor movies. So
I would be down. I mean, I think Marvel has started taking itself a little bit too seriously, and I think that's a good one to just be like, yeah, we just want to have fun.
Really?
depends on the movie.
You think the MCU has been
More
too
seriously
serious?
than they should be. More seriously than they should take themselves. I mean, in my mind,
They're superheroes after all.
they're superheroes in brightly colored outfits making quips. Do you need to be?
Oh,
Do
that's
you need
serious.
to be the most dramatic thing ever? No,
they're
let
not.
DC try and fail at that.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
I knew I'd
Don't
get
be a
about that.
fan.
Are you gonna defend Batman vs Superman, man?
What?
Are you gonna defend Batman vs
Superman,
Superman?
I still have not seen
Superman,
that movie. I
man.
will not see that movie. It does not exist. It did not happen.
I will appreciate that principle coming from you because you're a DC fanboy. So
I
I
am
like.
indeed.
I think that's you're more responsible than most DC fanboys at the moment. So
I don't know what's gonna irritate Thomas.
go, Han.
Really?
Oh, guys.
Wait, hold on.
Lego Batman!
I liked it a lot.
You didn't see Logan?
I didn't.
Oh,
I
that
was
was such a good
positive
movie.
that was gonna be number one.
No.
That was such a good
Dude,
movie.
I love
didn't
Lego
see-
Batman.
I didn't
kinda-
see Logan.
Dude,
I
you
didn't
see
see
that too?
Logan Lucky. I didn't see
Yes.
Baby Driver.
I kinda
would
forgot
have
about
loved
that
to have put
somehow.
those somewhere on here.
That was such a sad movie.
because they
I saw
seem
too
super
many
cool.
movies to put those on there.
But yeah, no, I did not. I missed that one. Anyways, Lego Batman is fantastic.
I love it to
It's
death.
so good. It somehow takes every single other Batman and is like, yeah, no, that all happened, but like we don't care about any inconsistencies that go with it because that's part of the joke. It takes the classic like hero villain thing and is like, no, they're totally in a relationship. That's what this is about.
I mean, I think the clever joke behind that movie is it's just a pantsing of the bad parts of Batman that don't work. So
good. It's so good.
Where's the trouble?
Yeah, and then
which I love, but
Sorry,
You know,
Tom.
honestly, probably the only
voice
thing I
gave
could
you
say
your
that, like isn't that great about it is like every villain. Like I think they went overboard with throwing every single villain in there. But
That's
they
the point.
they get
my
some
favorite
good-
part is when Sauron shows up.
Sauron is
Oh,
amazing.
yeah, that's
It's
true.
so good.
I thought you
And,
meant
like,
just the Batman villains.
No, yeah, I meant every how
Yeah.
it just includes every major villain.
I would
and
agree
some-
with that.
it's-
Condiment
it's a
Man
bit-
shows up.
It's a bit too.
Polka dot man.
Yes.
It's a bit too heavy with
Silver
that,
Age.
and you take some of like the most powerful villains in media history, and you kind of depower them because you have to when you have that many bad guys.
And Ray Fiennes was Alfred and not Lord Voldemort.
I will say, I think
Yeah,
that movie
right?
makes one huge misstep. I think with the Justice League because they establish them and then
Oh yeah,
because
that's true.
you can
That's
clearly tell the movie's kind of, that at one point the idea was going to be it's about him learning to work with them a little bit more and be like a happier kind of superhero like the other Justice League members.
Yeah,
And they set them up, but then they never pay off, which is weird.
that's true. But I mean,
Like you
it's
can
so
say,
good.
I think that the best version of that movie is Batman, all the villains, and the Justice League team up to defeat the Joker. I think that's the best version of that ending.
Proving that the Joker is the best villain.
Sure, why not?
Tyler's just like just throw that in.
Hey, I don't dislike the Joker.
Moving from that.
Here's the difference.
Curious to hear
Here's the thing about me and Tom.
thoughts.
I like Superman and Batman, and both not necessarily equally, but they're both my favorite characters. He disdains Superman and loves Batman dogmatically. So
Yes.
As you should.
Yes, you should.
Superman is straight trash, bro.
If
I
there's
hate
any
Ah.
dogmatic.
AJ, join my side or I beat you up.
No, dude, he's Ed.
I have 3 bodyguards.
I'm not prepared to take on all of you at once, but I will do it anyway.
I think it
That's
kind of goes the other way around.
Wait, what's that great patent saying? Wow, the Germans
Batman's
are surrounding the
better than
Americans.
Superman? Yeah, I remember
Those
that.
poor bastards.
Superman is cute.
Here's the thing. If,
Wow, I'm completely surrounded.
when
Those poor
Superman-
bastards.
When
You wanna die
Superman
today, son?
isn't being used as a superhero, I think he's great. Because I think there's some very interesting things you can do with an essentially all-powerful character. The problem is,
Except he's weak to like rocks and magic and high power.
well, it's not that he's weak to magic, he just doesn't have any special resistance to magic, so
No, he's weak to magic.
Magic is super effective against him, essentially.
that's not what I've...
He's a science-based.
Here
His
goes
powers are
another
science-based, so he would not have any sort of immunity to it.
Yeah, he's not immune to
Science
it. That's
is
the thing.
strong.
That's different than... That's
AJ
different than...
just-
It just means that any
Step
sort of
out.
superpowers based on magic would have a one-up ability on him. But
Like Shazam,
I would s-
Zatanna, Zatara.
Which,
I
by
love
the way,
Zatanna.
I am very excited for the
Hey.
Shazam movie.
Oh my god.
That's going to be a thing. They've officially
Shazam
announced
is
the
my
release
boy.
date in
Dude,
about
Zatanna?
a year and a half out.
She's so.
But
Something about
I will say, if you don't
I
think
know.
that there's a good way to do Superman, I could get you some choice comics to read that are good Superman stories. 'cause-
I'm sure there's
Good
a good way to do...
Superman?
I mean, I've
It's
seen
hilarious.
Superman where I felt
There
like it
is-
was a good... Where I felt like it was a decent piece of media.
There
I
are
just, as a character, I feel like he's not his most interesting when he's saving the day.
there.
Well,
if-
I think the interesting part of
on-
Superman is Clark Kent, because
Yeah,
it's
that's-
obviously
that's what I'm saying.
there's a dichotomy to him. So
the best Superman is Superman Red Sun, and I will fight anyone who disagrees.
I was,
I like that a
just
lot.
about to
I have-
drop that.
We're
I think
all
it's-
just over here.
I think it's a little pretentious, but I like it a lot.
That's also probably true.
Yeah.
I think Mark there's a really annoying part at the beginning where Mark Miller goes on this rant about how other people might have chastised Superman for being a communist, but instead I did something more nuanced. And I'm just like, this is just newspeak for I'm defending communism, and I'm just like.
I didn't realize. So there's a ball here, and it's got little shapes in it.
That's like a '70s toy.
And I grabbed it, and then it just started making all sorts of noises and never stopped until just now.
Whatever.
That's
So,
a valuable toy
alright.
from the 70s.
Alrighty.
What
sorry.
are Thomas's thoughts on Lego Batman? I
I
want
haven't
to.
seen it.
You haven't seen it.
Oh, you
You have seen it.
You said
Did you
that you weren't going to see it. You said that you were.
You weren't going to see it.
I eventually got around to seeing it.
You got around to seeing it.
Boy.
I would say late August,
Okay.
probably. It was a little bit before my roommate's dad died, because I watched it with him. It was. I'll accept it.
That's all I ask.
Tom's a staunch man, so
That wasn't
that's
entertaining.
more or less praise.
It's
I was just curious because you led into it saying Thomas will hate
Oh,
this.
because there was a period of time where he wouldn't even really acknowledge its existence. So
Due
so
to
for
some
me-
of the,
What was
there
the
are some
reasons?
major flaws in that movie, but like
I feel like they're all
saying.
supposed to be there, which is
But
where I.
so
where I
they
agree.
they dressed up one Robin as a different Robin. And gave it that's not Dick Grayson, that's Kelly Carey. It was like, no, this is Dick Grayson.
yeah.
Like, no, that's Kelly Carey.
That did bother me.
That's
And
true.
it bothered me so much because they're both great Robins. I was like, I will slap you.
Were you bothered by the point
I-
where he puts on the Nightwing costume like prematurely, and it's clear that the movie doesn't like the fact that he's putting on the Nightwing costume?
I kind of wish they didn't do that at all.
I mean, it's clear that the metaphor is supposed to be he's going on in his own,
So
like
does this
Nightwing
movie,
would have been.
does
but-
this movie fight with itself? I gotta see this.
It's self-aware.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's
It's extremely self-aware.
It's so self-aware.
Very
and
much.
It has. If the movie took itself seriously, I would tear it to pieces.
It's the only movie of
Because
that
it's-
kind that
it's-
would work.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
can't imagine
It's-
that movie.
it's Robot
taking
Chicken
itself
Batman.
Seriously.
Mhm.
It's Robot
Sure.
Chicken, which is appropriate because the director is one of the Robot Chicken writers. So
Yeah.
and now he's supposed to be doing the actual Nightwing movie apparently. So
There's a lot of
So-
movies that are supposed to happen.
here's at this
Halo
point, I
movie.
think we need to kind of wrap up on that. So
Stop.
and for going forward, the rules are I think if you have more than top 10 movies in your list, just kind of skirt through them quickly so we can get through them with relative ease.
I won't go. I'll
And-
do
That's
and-
what I was gonna do.
And
this
if you
guy right
have
here.
movies in your list that we've already discussed, don't make it another huge discussion topic, because otherwise we're going to be talking about Star Wars 5 times. But
Why not? Why
I mean,
can't we talk about Star Wars 5 times?
because I have
This
things,
isn't on my list.
I have like 4 articles I need to write
Stop
this weekend.
looking
So
at- Stop.
Stop cheating, Joe.
I have to write my review for Phantom Thread for Geeks Under Grace. So
Okay. I'll do honorable no, I'll do some honorable mentions. So, T2, Train Spotting, not Terminator. Magnificent.
go on.
One of the very few examples of a sequel that's released multiple years after the original being good.
Yeah.
Clerks
That's
2.
That's a rare thing. I do like Clerks 2, actually.
Ayo.
It, I liked a lot.
You liked it.
I liked it a lot.
Shut up, dude.
I had to make the bad
movie.
What?
Sorry, I'm getting food. I'll be back in the microphone seat in a second.
He's got some slurp.
I think that I would describe it as a very workman-like movie. Like it's not a great elevation of the story, but it's a decent a version of it.
How much more elevated can you get of that story?
Stranger
When
Things.
it's over. Okay.
Wait, can we count that? Because that would be number 1.
No.
Dang
No,
it.
no, you cannot.
And it is better than Stranger Things.
Dude, I haven't seen it. I know it's better.
I mean, I haven't seen enough Stranger
and
Things
I'm on
to.
AJ's side.
I haven't seen enough Stranger Things to deliberate on it, but from what I can tell, there's more like individual character stuff going on than there was in It, which I think is a benefit. But
That's because it has how many 8, 9, 10 episodes to do it.
Excuse you.
8 is the first number I said.
But
Dude.
you also said 9 and 10.
Dude, I've
So
seen movies
technically
with big
season two
casts
had
that.
9 and 10.
I've seen movies with big casts that are fine at 2 hours. So
18 episodes.
Listen, I've seen Stranger Things, so you know shit.
if you don't think a movie can do good with a big cast, then how are any of the Avengers movies made?
It does.
I thought most of the kids were underdeveloped,
Andrew.
but that's my only complaint. That's
Every
my only
single
complaint.
one of them had a
Stranger
scene confronting
Things.
Pennywise, which strengthened their character. This isn't part of my top 10, so let's not go into it.
Fine.
But I have many other honorable mentions, but so I'll just go into it. Actually, never mind. Okay, my number 10 is Baby Driver, which isn't like anything that'll like blow your mind, other than it's mind-blowingly fun. I think I would say that it's the most fun movie I saw last year.
It's Initial D, the movie.
Sure.
Deja vu.
Yeah.
Number 9 is Mother. Darren Aronofsky's.
Which you and I disagree with on to some degree.
Do we?
But I don't know.
Well, yeah, because you said it was the okayest, and I thought it was.
Here's the thing. I think it's a
Yeah,
very.
it is.
I think it's a. I think
Number
it's
9.
trying to be this really deep, complex film. I understood everything that was happening about it within a couple within a week or so of thinking about it. Like, it's obviously a memorable movie with a lot of interesting things to say it, but it's a messy movie and it's a blunt movie. And I think that there, and I don't necessarily, I'm not going to say me disagreeing with its message is necessarily a critique on it, but I found that it was a weird way to kind of approach the subject matter it was going for.
It's an interesting movie because it is, as you say, very blunt. Its message is, I think, very clear.
I mean, it's essentially,
but it goes about it in such a metaphorical way. It feels like 100 in the same way that God is 100% man and 100% God. This movie is 100% metaphor and 100% straightforward. But it works for me.
I mean, essentially the movie is, for anyone who doesn't understand, essentially the movie is an environmentalist critique of Christianity, which it's interesting, and there's a lot of ways that the movie does like bizarre and abstract ideas in a way that's really kind of visceral and interesting. But
I like to think that there are many different ways you can interpret it, but there really is one main one.
Obviously, that's
I think the director had one very clear message, but there are a lot of other meanings you can take away from it. And I appreciate any movie that can do that, that can speak to different audience members in different, very distinct ways.
Sure.
It had a lot of things going on.
See, I think what it is has a more interesting message than the movie itself. I think when you're taking that sort of, because I've felt for a long time that the environmental movement has a very interesting
Watch yourself.
a very interesting religious component to it. It in a lot of ways it does almost
the way it orients itself and talks about it. Not
Yes,
necessarily
yes.
in its conclusions scientifically,
but the way it's oriented and the way people talk about it, it feels
It's very reverential.
it feels a lot like a religion.
you have to prove yourself to the movement in some ways.
Yeah, and it's kind of almost a new paganism. And so I
It's
think
kind of the old paganism.
well, it's
Like
it's
being
a
Wiccan, except without witchcraft.
Which is a major component of Wiccanism.
I mean, you almost get to a version of witchcraft if you want to. You can draw very
become a
interesting
shaman.
parallels. So I think I think the movie and the analogy that it takes actually is more exposing of the movement itself and how the movement itself has a lot of parallels to religion than really the movie is trying to say.
That could be an interesting way to approach it.
Yeah.
Now, without getting the environmentalist conglomerating in the feed, let's move on.
Okay. But yeah, it's essentially the story of the Old Testament and New Testament, story of the Bible, told from Mother Earth's perspective.
That's an interesting idea, and my only problem is that I found it to be like way too easy to understand. Like usually,
I don't like movies that are too out there.
well, not out there. I like when movies are difficult and they have to think about them, and the movie requires you to elevate it, like something like The Godfather.
And
or
I
something.
thought Mother was. I thought it required thought to understand it. Maybe not as much thought as some other movies.
I didn't have a hard time figuring it out. Really, that's the problem.
Well, good for you. No, it was.
I'm not that good at that though. That's the thing. Like I'm not a good literary analyzer.
No, it just hit me. It hit that sweet spot for me that it felt complex. It made me feel smart for understanding it. Let me just say that.
I'll let you have that.
Thanks. Thanks.
Even though one of his previous comments did not let you have that at all.
All right. Number 8 is technically a movie that came out last year. It premiered last year. On IMDb, it's 2016, but it came out this year, 2017. Raw. Which is a French movie.
I like French films, pretentious, boring French films.
It's not. As far as French films go, this isn't super pretentious.
I was gonna say, man, this glass house I'm sitting in sure is nice.
It's a little too nice. Might need to get maybe
Rocked.
Toss a couple rocks.
So yeah, this movie is. Everybody must get stoned. Anyways, Raw is a very hard film to sell.
Yeah.
In that it's
I haven't
about
seen it, but
Oh,
cannibalism
my favorite.
in a veterinary school.
and it's a metaphor for like sexual, like coming to age, I guess.
Another thing, it's a lot of. I think it has a lot of It has a lot of metaphors going for it.
That's all I can add, Joe.
But at its core, it's a story about family and.
Okay, Vin Diesel, keep going.
More specifically, sisterhood. Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's the most cliche thing you're gonna say.
Yeah, that is the most cliche thing I've ever heard. And it might be true. I'm not trying to discredit that. It was
No,
funny.
Tom, if I ever
Yeah.
write that or say that on TV, feel free to kill me and put me out of my misery.
Thanks, man.
It's okay if you say
It
it.
works when you say it.
I did deliver that poorly. But no, it's about these two sisters. And it just happens to involve a lot of eating people and tasting blood. And yeah, it was.
So it's like real life then.
I don't know about all that.
You know when
Don't look under the stairs.
You know when people try to like defend communism, they say shit like that.
It's about family.
It's about fatherland.
There just happens to be a lot of sharing the wealth.
Yeah.
And a lot of
Those
cannibalism that don't conform.
Moving on.
So, and the last thing I'll say is just maybe one of my favorite scenes of this year was in Raw. It was the first time she tastes
Watch your words.
human blood, and that it's just done so well that I was just on the edge of my seat and disgusted and enthralled, and I couldn't look away if I wanted to. It was
you
just
wanted to, but you couldn't.
I like it so much.
Anywho, now that
I
my
like
French
cannibalism.
pretension is out of the way.
You always want to get that out of the way early.
Yeah, number 8 is solid. Number 7 is Wind River.
Oh, nice.
Jeremy Renner, Elizabeth Olsen, not as Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch, but as good characters. No,
Oh.
I
will give you half of that.
I'm very much joking. Which one?
You know the funny thing about Hawkeye as a character? His best turn as a character is in probably the worst movie he's in. So,
Probably true.
so no one ever watches Age of Ultron anymore. But that's like the best performance of Hawkeye in the entire series.
I know it's a controversial opinion. I really liked Age of Ultron.
I did too.
It's okay. It's just not. It just doesn't have any
Oh,
staying
dude,
power.
stop!
I agree.
That's true.
I agree. I agree with
Although
Andrew.
I would say that
I just hated. I just did not like like how Ultron didn't seem like a robot. Like I got it. I understood like what they were going for, but I can only think of James Spader
That's fair.
as one character. And for some reason, it's the dude off The Office.
I will say this. I have a video I need to show you now because someone actually edited all of his bits from The Office into the scenes with Ultron. And
Oh
it's the
my
funniest
God.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here like, okay, is this Ultron or is this Robert California? It's like...
It's funny seeing Ultron just running around screaming, "I am the Lizard King." But let's let AJ get on with Wind River.
I don't remember him.
I'm sorry, it's just I have so much beef with...
James
the
Spader was
character.
Ultron, so but go on.
Yes. Okay. I'm a sucker for a good mystery. I just love straightforward mysteries. I thought this was a... What?
Sorry, continue. I'm being quiet.
That's fine. And I thought this was a great one. There's not really a lot to say with it. It's a very straightforward story, just told extremely well.
Sure.
Do I need to describe the plot?
Taylor Sheridan gets a shout out because he made Hell or High Water and Sicario, and he has Sicario 2 coming out this year. So
I thought, did he write that one?
yeah,
He wrote the second Sicario? Okay.
it's not a Denis Villeneuve movie, but it's his.
I knew that. All right. I don't know what's happening anymore. My feelings are hurt. Number 6 is what'd you say?
I love you.
Oh,
That's
You
gay.
Gay.
Number
Guys,
6
play
is
18,
Star
go
Wars
careful.
Episode 8,
all
The
right.
Last Jedi, and I'm gonna say this straight up, my favorite Star Wars movie of all time.
That's controversial.
This coming from a guy who isn't a huge Star Wars fan.
That's
Okay.
that's the caveat.
Coming from a man with controversial opinions, that's a controversial opinion.
Yeah.
I'm so weird.
Yeah,
like
I
laughing, bro.
appreciate the original trilogy for the excellent stories they are. I even appreciate the prequels to some extent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Episode 2
I
is the
appreciate
worst
what
one.
they're doing. I disagree.
I know, that's why I said it.
No comment.
What did he...
That's not something to go into now. But
It is.
I did not feel an emotional. I did not get an emotional reaction watching the original Star Wars trilogy that I did in this movie. It just, the scene with Yoda was just perfect to me. I think it was the most deliberate parallel to the films of Kurosawa in that the fight between Kylo Ren and Luke was just such a perfect, like, it was all about I don't even know how to describe it. It was,
Holographs.
I didn't. I will say I have one criticism of the post-Lucas Star Wars movies. I miss the Errol Flynn influence. Like, I miss that whole, like, swashbuckling,
Yeah.
sword-fighting action style that all the old movies had. And it feels different now that they don't really use that as a primary influence. But
the primary influence was samurai.
well, it's
Their
borrowing
sword
from,
fighting was samurai.
it's borrowing from a lot of things, but there's
With
a lot
the
of
two-
the...
A lot of fencing.
Originally, the two hands, like the lightsabers were supposed to be heavy, like
Well, the thing, it's borrowing from
went out the
multiple
window.
influences. Like, the action scenes are very Errol Flynn-esque. Like, the scene where he throws the thing up and swings across
Well,
the chasm.
sure.
And there's lots of scenes like that in the original Star Wars trilogy, and to a degree in the prequels. So, losing that, I think it's kind of, you lose a little bit of the kinetic action.
but it had way more emotional weight with them sizing each other up, and they're paying more attention to their footwork than how fast they can.
No, I'm not berating the films. I'm just saying I wish that was an element they would bring back.
No, I know. That's something I appreciated, though,
And-
was that they took their time. It was more a mind game, getting into the mind of their opponent than a clash of skills.
Sure.
I mean, they as someone who has very intimate knowledge of swordplay, like there was so much influence
We're talking about Star Wars again.
with the
Last topic. But
with
yeah.
the like
Yeah,
the,
I'll try to.
with the 7 or 8 different styles of lightsaber combat. They're all influenced very differently.
Sure.
So like when you see someone like Obi-Wan who's very defensive heavy. You see him way more samurai influenced than most people.
Yeah.
Because he's defensive.
I
And
do
he's
think that it's
reactionary.
really cool how throughout the Star Wars universe, they fight very differently. Each person does have a fairly
Yeah.
unique style and how they fight.
Yeah, I mean,
Count Dooku.
I'm not gonna. Nobody's
General
gonna
Grievous.
deny that the most exciting fights were in the prequels. They were just so.
They're the
Some may
best.
say overly choreographed. I wouldn't. I think they're fun. They're great action scenes.
I think the characters are underdeveloped a bit, but they're great visual action.
But that does
scenes.
exactly. That doesn't
I
play
like
into the
fighting in
action scenes
prequels
that
probably
much.
the best.
But this was kind of a different take on that. It was way more character influenced. But that's just one scene. The movie as a whole just flowed nicely. I didn't mind the casino scene. A lot of people didn't like that kind of whole subplot. The only thing I didn't like really was the when they kind of got preachy about the animal rights.
Right?
I was just like,
And that's part of
I don't know,
why
guys.
those-
get out of here.
What's that great line from What We Do in the Shadows? He has some
Werewolves, not werewolves.
He has some old-fashioned opinions about things. Then it cuts to him. Maybe we should get some slaves.
I love
it's like,
both of his
it's like,
movies.
man.
The entire resistance is going to die, but we freed some bunny horses, so everything was worth it.
Ayo.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was really the only thing that kind of took me out of it. Everything else just felt pitch perfect to me.
It was very good.
It was all about Finn's arc, though. I mean,
You know, I never really.
And
I never really realized.
I don't care about any of the new characters. I really don't.
How stupid
except
that
for
one
Kylo Ren.
casino.
Kyle Ren,
What up,
he's
Poe?
easily
That
the-
was-
easily
Poe I
the
do
best,
like.
but I
Poe I
do,
do like.
but I do like Poe, Finn, and Rey. Honestly,
I just remember so
Kylo
many
is the
main
most
people
interesting
dying in
of-
that
of
movie
the
that I
new
was just
crop.
like,
They need to find something
Every
specific
time
for Finn
somebody
to
died, I
do,
was
but
just like-
otherwise.
Like
Move
I thought he was more interesting in 7 than he was in
Yes.
8. I thought.
He had a more direct arc, but
Yeah.
moving on.
Anyway, yes.
Yes,
We need to continue.
sorry.
We
No.
started talking about Star Wars again.
Number 5 is Brigsby Bear, which I don't know if
Jameson
any movie
Brigsby.
made me smile more than this one. It's just such a feel-good, like, kickstart, like, make you want to go make a movie with your friends type of movie.
I'm a sociopath, so it probably wouldn't make me feel much, but go on.
Like every Wes Anderson movie.
Kind of. But yeah, and what's weird about it is, if you think about it, it starts off in such a dark place. Like this, I don't know how much you guys heard about it, but it's this. You learn throughout the movie that this kid was kidnapped by Mark Hamill and his wife, and but he doesn't know any better. He grows up in this captivity thinking it's like you kind of get the feel it's like a post-apocalyptic. They live in like this kind of like a 10 Cloverfield Lane type of situation where they can't
room.
they can't go outside. Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, eventually, the cops come, quote unquote, save him. And it's really cool how the parents aren't on the news. You see them villainized, but because the movie is told through his eyes, he still sees them as like his parents. He knows them as their parents. He learns later on that they're really not, but they're not villainized in the movie, and that's interesting.
That sounds very Raising Arizona-esque.
Kind of, except more played out. Like this, like the second half of that movie after they took the baby.
It sounds like normalizing
Ayo.
But yeah, and then just him discovering the world as a young adult. The title comes from Brigsby Bear is this TV show that his fake parents made to keep him entertained. They had this like studio that he never knew about until later, that they were making this show, this episodic show for him, and this is his life. He's even on like a forum online with his parents that he doesn't know is his parents.
Wow.
I need to watch this movie because it sounds absolutely terrifying.
It's not.
yeah, it sounds pretty scary,
It
bro.
kind of does, but it's so
Best horror movie
lighthearted
of
and like
2017.
because it's all through his eyes. It's
Yeah.
his take on it is just like, oh, okay, so now this wasn't my life, and now I'm kind of just learning like this is what my life was supposed to be.
That would suck finding out that your favorite show is.
And that's the whole point of it, is when he learns that it's not real, he's like, oh, well, I'll just finish the story myself. And nobody knows what it is. And so he's just got all this lore. He's got like 20 years of lore in his head that nobody else knows about. So it's such a like well thought out thing, and he just goes out and makes it. And it
That just
becomes
sounds
this
like my life.
becomes like this cult hit. And it's
Oh.
like a movie cult.
Yeah, no, I know what you meant, but it's just when you're describing the rest of the plot. And
I
then
know.
you talk about something else becoming a cult.
I know. But yeah, and it's just such a happy movie, and I love it.
Well,
And it
he's-
stars SNL's Kyle
They-
Mooney.
I will be right
Reminded
back.
me-
I need to return this bag of smart food popcorn into the kitchen before I eat all of it again.
Sponsor.
Give us money.
I can't stop eating it. I can't.
Your note
It's like,
there
I feel
about
like the most sadistic commercial ever. It's just like popcorn. He literally can't stop eating it. Oh, not that.
You can buddy.
Go fast.
now I can speak.
Speak a little louder.
I
Sugar.
feel like your note there about a young adult discovering the world, it like reminded me of the movie Blast from the
Yeah,
Past.
you kind of orgasmed there for a second. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's a
with
great.
Brendan Fraser.
That's I
I
don't
was
know.
like,
how- I didn't draw
What is
that
the name
parallel
of this
before.
movie?
But yeah,
Yeah, why didn't I do that? But yeah, it's kind of
Okay.
like that, but better, significantly
Okay.
better.
That's
I don't
that's
dislike
fair.
Blast from the Past, but
It
Britney
wasn't a
Spears
great
just
movie.
so lovely.
Okay, moving on.
Number 4 is a film that I think probably premiered at Sundance, but Netflix bought it. So it's a Netflix movie. I don't feel at home in this world anymore.
Was that a quote or?
That's the movie title. That's the whole title.
that's my
There's
my
not
biography.
more. Are you sure that's not more? That's shockingly short.
This is about a woman who has her home broken into, and some of her stuff stolen, and her quest to get it back. And her neighbor, played by Elijah Wood, helps her. And have you seen it?
No.
Okay, I thought you mentioned. I thought I heard you say something like that was on my honorable mentions. Story.
It's on a list of movies to watch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Elijah Wood's character reminds me so much of you.
Oh.
Okay.
It's I don't know if you'll feel the same way, but to me it was uncanny. Just like
Okay.
his. You'll have to watch it.
Okay. I will have to watch it.
But yeah, he's just such. I loved him. I absolutely loved him in this.
There's stuff happening right here.
He's talking
And-
about Elijah Wood.
And his character, who is Tom. I believe Tom was an influence on Elijah Wood.
All right. Anyway,
He was part of Elijah Wood's origin story in ways that are too specific for you to ever imagine.
We have brunch every Thursday.
And yeah, it's just it's another kind of straightforward story that gets progressively more unpredictable, and it's just a fun little adventure. And
I must say, I
Right.
do appreciate you summarizing the plots for me because I've never heard of most of these movies.
that's what I figured. A couple of these are really obscure.
I have a couple of those.
And yeah, I think what I'm realizing about this is I love small stories done well. I don't need anything huge. I mean, obviously I got Star Wars on here, but
oh,
like, I don't need much more than a small personal story that makes me laugh and feel. And these movies did. It's much like my next movie, Lady Bird, which
Smooth.
thank you. Which
Seamless.
probably is obviously, since I rank these, is probably the best of that small story done well, written well, and acted well, and it made me feel.
I wish we had Tiffany here because she had a lot of really interesting insights on it when we
She
were.
did.
Yeah.
and from a perspective that I don't think any of us could really relate,
'Cause-
not relate to, but
'cause
feel.
she was saying it's because
personally.
she and her mom have that kind of like strong-willed woman relationship where they kind of butt heads, and so she was saying a lot of like women that appeal, this kind of a story appeals to them as a coming-of-age story, which I thought was an interesting perspective.
I completely understand her feeling that way. This is a movie that will immediately, I think for most people, want, as soon as you leave the theater, you want to call your mom and just like talk to her and just love on her. And
Did you call your mom?
yeah, a few days later,
Oops.
during our scheduled Skype time.
Took a little bit for it to
No,
affect
it's
It's a little bit harder for him to call.
it
his
is.
mom,
Thank
so-
you for that.
That is true.
But yeah, I think I immediately said I want you guys to watch this, so we can talk about it and relate to it. Because I think a lot of people will see a lot of similarities to their families. I don't know why I looked at you, because if of anybody, it's gonna be the least similar to you.
You're right.
You said you liked it though, right?
Very good movie. Very good movie. That is as far as I will go with it because I don't want to speak for an hour and a half.
Yeah, Saoirse Ronan was great. Was it Alison Janney that played her mother, or was that I, Tonya?
I don't know.
I think it was Allison Janney.
Okay. Who played her mom in it was also great. I loved the dad with the very few lines he had. They were just perfect. And like his body language just reminded me so much of my dad. Yeah. It's I think one of the best coming of age movies of all time, and that's kind of a very hit or miss genre for me. And this one hit hard. I have no good segue into. Speaking of hitting hard with claws.
I'm guessing.
10 out of 10. 100 out of 100. Best segue. Best segue.
Logan is my number 2.
The feels.
I think
hit hard.
probably the second best. I know a couple people in this room will disagree with me, but I think the second best superhero movie of all time, behind The Dark Knight. I know
At least you have the number 1 correct.
you guys. Andrew, I know you like Batman Begins.
Dark Knight's
better.
the best one of all time. I agree.
I would say Dark Knight is the best one. It's just not the one I like the most.
Okay.
You know, I
That's a fair
enjoy. I
distinction.
enjoy. I think there is a distinction to be made there because I can recognize that the movie is bad or good, but that I personally enjoy it quite a bit. Space Jam is not a good movie. I love watching it.
Yeah.
If you
so
don't
good,
love
despite-
watching Space Jam, there's something medically wrong with you.
Yeah, but like.
Hey, Dad, any comment?
What's that?
They just claimed that Space Jam is the best movie, or one of the best movies ever.
That's not what we said.
Not
That is precisely
I was
the opposite.
capturing the spirit of your comments.
Liar!
That is precisely the opposite.
That's how rumors. That's how
You have
rumors.
done that yourself. You were gonna take her from me.
I have seen Joe quote that entire scene, so let's stop him. All right.
I must say, for Revenge of the Sith being a bad movie, it might be the most quote-worthy movie I've ever
Because it's
seen.
so good. They have like 5 lines an hour.
Dad is leaving us. Bye.
Bye, Dad.
But no,
Oh, do you have any?
You're
what was-
ignorant.
What was your
Shut up.
favorite movie of the year?
only the Jedi deal, only the Sith deal in absolutes.
I will do what I
I'm
must.
trying to remember what we saw. I know you were all over. What are some of the options that I got? What, I'm kind of blanking out.
All
And the
well,
year started
until
around John Wick
17.
2 coming
I've
out,
got
and
51.
it's.
No,
I know you didn't like John Wick 2 for some reason, but
I just
Speaking
thought
of
the
it.
story was, John Wick 1 was just this amazing story built around this
You killed my
framework that just made sense, and it was so perfect in so many ways. And then 2 came out and tried to build on it, and it wasn't working the same way, and I just didn't like it as much. Rogue One, pretty amazing movie.
that was late last year.
Oh, was it? Does it count? Okay. Late 2016. Well, never mind.
You got Star Wars Episode 8 this year.
Well, yeah, but that was disappointing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I just no, it wasn't bad. It just wasn't.
No, that's
as
very
good as,
fair.
like, Kingsman, the new Kingsman movie was out last year. That just didn't do it for me. I'm trying to think what I saw in the theaters. Well, certainly Dunkirk we saw.
We saw it separately.
Yeah. Dunkirk came out in 2017.
That's
That
a movie
was
I wish I could have seen with my dad. I had a good
Pretty-
substitute.
I wish
though.
I could have seen it with your dad.
pretty darn good.
Your substitute.
That'd be right up there in terms of my.
Do not take it from me.
2017. What else am I missing? What are you suggesting? I know Tyler liked Logan.
Yeah, I was currently talking about Logan. That's my number 2.
Yeah. What else?
Lady Bird. Did you see that? I'm not gonna
Not
reveal my
yet.
number 1 yet.
No.
We've been kind of systematically going through everything. So.
Wind River. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
Okay, I think you would probably like that. And then Baby Driver.
Oh yeah,
Talk
there
about
you
Star
go.
Wars.
Yeah, they definitely Baby Driver, but
I'm not gonna talk long.
I'll stick with Dunkirk.
Okay,
Good with that.
that's
Solid
an acceptable
choice.
answer.
It's Christopher Nolan, and Christopher Nolan tells a story in a Christopher Nolan type of way, and so I'm good with that. So, all right, folks.
All right.
And he's gone. So where's AJ? That leaves you with your number 1.
Is that all we're gonna say about Logan?
Yeah.
Was that?
No, I'm not
you finished up
saying
Logan now.
Essentially that like Dark Knight is flawless. I can't think of a single flaw. Logan is right behind that in terms of quality and also made me cry.
Yeah, dude, we were done. We were
just
done.
when she turns that cross into an X.
Motherfucker tried to hide his face.
It's just such a that one act is so emotionally hard hitting. It's so good. It's everything a Wolverine, a final Wolverine should be.
I think the best comment I heard was from our friend Justin, I saw it with him opening night. He turned to me at the end of the movie and he said, "I just watched a superhero movie with an ending."
Yeah, that's very true. And it was a small story.
Yes.
It was a character we knew from big stories, but it made it more personal. It was pretty much just a point A to point B plot, and
The journey is.
that's
the
what
adventure.
that's what I gravitate to. All right. And any other comments before I move on?
I don't know if I would rank that the second best superhero movie of all time, but it's certainly up there.
I'm trying to think what else to put up there.
Hold on.
I-
Spider-Man. There's a lot of them.
I think Spider-Man 2 would be
All
my top
of Tobey
10.
Maguire Spider-Man movies.
Stop.
I could probably come up with a list of about 5 to 10 that I
Three
would
and a half
count
of
on.
3 above Logan?
Not above.
Oh, I thought you were.
I would say that's in like the top 5 at least.
2.5 Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies.
I would
are
also-
sublime.
That's true.
I mean, I could come up with a list, but
Did
it's
you say 2.5?
whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. 3 was.
and it's almost
Three's the other
perfectly
half.
split down the middle.
Okay, let's move on.
Anyways, number 1, Get Out. Because I want to say
Yeah!
Of the theater.
because I want
Shout
to
out!
because I want to say my number 1 movie. Get Out.
I love that movie.
I bet you do.
It scared
Don't
me.
be racist.
For those of you who
What
can't
a
see at
beat.
home, Joe is black.
No, I'm not. They're lying.
He said blackly.
And I'm off YouTube.
Said
Thanks,
the
my
white man
friend.
inside of his
I,
head.
I want to read a novel
Too far,
where
dude.
one of the characters says something,
We-
and then the narration part of it is like, they said blackly.
Sorry.
Okay, anyway. Get out.
Anyways,
Now that we all know Joe's
Um,
ethnicity.
I'm not black, I'm Hispanic.
bro.
Oh no. I'm sorry.
This is just
Let me prove that I'm Hispanic. Uno.
tacos.
One in Spanish.
You're ruining my YouTube channel.
Light hero.
What in Spanish?
I'm glad you appreciated that.
Dude, the internet's proliferating right now whether Ugandan Knuckles is racist. I don't need this on my feed.
It's not. It's not, especially when the person who made it loves the meme.
No.
Yes.
Joe has not seen this.
He hasn't? Oh my god.
We has not.
What the hell are Ugandan Knuckles?
He does not know the way.
He does not know the way.
He does not know the way.
We need to show Joe the way.
Wait a minute. Is like Snapchat filters?
No. There's a story.
That made me think of like the Sonic characters, but they're like from Uganda. No, for real. They got like the Snapchat filter that's like a little like Knuckles looking character, but he's straight up Ugandan.
Interesting.
Maybe, I don't know. You have to show it to me. But
Show it.
it's all the Knuckles memes that have been
Show me
going
the
around the
way.
last week. It's
Did we
complicated.
finish talking about Get Out?
This is a terrible transition from Get Out.
I'm just pretty much.
Why are you doing this to me?
It's an excellent movie that you should see. I don't want to spoil because it's got a great twist, and easily the best script of the year. It's just so smart, and it will make you think, and will have you guessing. And yeah, I'm a sucker for a good script, and this is the best one of the year. And amazingly well directed for a sketch comedy. Yeah, like not that it needs to be stressed anymore, but that's insane.
To borrow a quote from myself, I can't believe the guy that was in Keanu made this.
I mean, dude's got talent.
Yeah.
Kind of arrogant. Quotes himself.
Me.
That's probably true. I don't know that that's true. Doesn't everyone kind of
As you
quote
may
themselves,
have read in my book, Mein Kampf, I'm right.
Allow myself to introduce myself.
Oh, what is that from?
Austin Powers.
That's right. Yeah, I guess that's it. Get Out's
I would hope it
Brilliant.
ended at number 1.
absolutely brilliant.
And number 0.
Number 0. Number negative 306.
Number 0, Oakja.
Okay, moving on.
Ooh.
Joe, do you have any best of this year? Or?
I don't know, man. Cause see, here's my problem is
You can look at my list now.
No, I
You can
watched,
choose
like-
which ones you've seen.
All right, hey, let's see. Damn, we got too many movies here, dog. You seen all these in 1 year?
No, 2017 starts here.
Oh, I was gonna say, damn, you got
It's a year. That's a long time.
I've
Anyways,
yeah,
actually, one of my favorite movies this year was what was it? It Comes at Night. I'm not gonna lie. Okay.
that's an honorable mention.
That's solid.
We went into that movie thinking it was gonna be scary. It wasn't really. It was actually really sad.
Yeah.
It's a good sad movie. But I got a lot of stuff to say about Star Wars, so I'm just gonna close this up for a second. See, my problem, I thought episode 8 was actually really good.
Mm-hmm.
I think my beef with what everybody's saying is that, oh, it's too different from all the Star Wars movies. Well, why were you
Yes,
all
thank you.
complaining that episode 7 was
I-
too much like episode 4?
Because the
that.
internet is
So-
stupid.
Okay, here's what I will say. I do wonder how many of I'm sure lots of people are saying the exact are having those complaints with both ones. My complaint with episode 7 is that it is way too much like episode 4, and I liked episode 8. So I do want to defend myself a little bit because I was one of those people complaining about episode 7.
Well, no, I'm not saying that those people are bad. I'm saying
enjoyed episode 8 because of those things. But yes, there are those people.
I'm
who
saying
say,
the people who are actually bad are the ones who are saying that and then being mad that episode 8 is too different.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you guys literally asked for this. Now, there's the people who are saying like, oh, the Force can't do this, the Force can't do that. Well, who said that? Who says who?
He told the Force what the Force can and cannot do.
Exactly.
Excuse me. I've read every expanded universe Star Wars novel, and I can tell you for a fact what the Force can do.
I also had
George Lucas tells us exactly what it does.
George Lucas tells us in
I-
Mein Kampf.
Oh my god.
Wow.
I also
this may-
had someone
this
tell
might
me
be- that's
that tried to throw logic at it. They're like, oh well,
Is it
how did they
Jewish?
survive on the ship when, spoiler alert, you know, the ship blows up and Princess Leia does her little shabam and doesn't die. Well, then you got all these people on the other side who are trying to throw logic at the movie, like, oh well, this movie's not realistic. There's sound in space. Shut up. Shut up. This is Star Wars.
You can't fly
You
from
can't
planet
throw
to planet
logic in a
without light speed.
sci-fi war film. Shut up. And then I got beef with the people who hate on the prequels. All right, the prequels are not.
We have a very
Trash.
prequel-friendly
They're
Yes.
not trash.
group here. I'm actually impressed by that.
I'll identify as prequel friendly.
Shut up. You thought this was
Liking
the best
Star
Star Wars movie.
Dude, liking Star Wars is more or less a political party at this point.
Yeah. George Lucas for president.
I actually like the
I-
fighting.
I do think that the reason
I had to make
Hillary
up for
Clinton
calling him
lost was
Hitler.
because she didn't like Star Wars. I do think that the reason Hillary Clinton lost is because she didn't like Star Wars.
Ooh.
Shut up
Because
about
she's-
Hillary Clinton. Listen, my beef with these new films is I don't really like the sword fighting in it.
Yeah, that's
I think it's kind of reminiscent to how the originals were, and I didn't really like the fighting in the originals. It's very,
half of what I liked.
it's very boring.
Very
I will say this.
I liked
Eight's
Obi-Wan's fighting style in the prequels. I think my favorite Star Wars battle, besides the Phantom Menace one, was probably Anakin and Obi-Wan in episode
Thank
3.
you.
Oh, it's
Sure.
so good.
Absolutely.
Credit to the movie.
So good.
Yeah,
The Last Jedi does something really
We're on
novel.
the same page right now. It's like
Nobody
Credit
can
to
take
the
away the
credit to the
action.
Last Jedi. It is actually kind of clever about that. Never once during the film do any of the lightsabers ever clash.
Yeah.
It's only ever with like the anti-lightsaber weapons
so,
that
like,
they.
I'm mostly
Technically,
talking
there
about
isn't a
episode
lightsaber
7.
fight.
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking about episode 7, like in the Force.
I thought it was
Yeah,
pretty.
That
I
was
did
like-
not like episode
I was
7.
first off, I was like, okay, well, how
Really?
the hell is Finn even standing a chance? Okay,
Why the hell
yeah,
I
what
give him
is?
standing a chance?
Because he's bleeding and
Like,
horribly injured.
To me,
Because
I don't
he's
care.
black and those
I-
people are naturally athletic.
To me, it makes
Yeah.
more sense that Finn is doing
Don't be
that.
racist.
At least
But-
Finn has some combat training.
That's true.
Finn has combat
Rey
training,
has the
and
Force.
Kylo Ren was shot by Chewbacca's crossbow. So
Does the Force make you good at fighting?
you
She
can
tapped
channel the
into it.
Force to be.
Yeah,
You can channel the Force when you're
It
fighting.
showed her tapping into it.
Yes. I
Kylo Ren. I'm not disagreeing that Kylo Ren should have easily handled them both.
Also,
But he wasn't.
I got one last thing.
But
I got one
still.
last thing. Okay, I was arguing with someone. I'm gonna say I was arguing with someone on Facebook. Yeah, look down at me. But listen, this person was telling me that episode 4 was like the story was just so much better than all these other ones. All this, and I'm like, but was it really?
Episode
It
4.
was cool for its time, and it's still a very respected movie. But the storyline was really kind of stupid.
In the
Like
first-
the dialogue, all of that was just kind of
What are we
stupid.
You mean
And
the
I'm like,
original one from '77, or?
yeah.
What?
Well, it's. I'd say it's.
That's my
I-
second favorite Star Wars movie.
I call it
Just
janky.
you have no. Just.
I would say, I would call it janky because they were clearly kind of having to stitch something together after a really troubled shoot. So
I had a long-winded opinion that I'll basically boil down. I will. In that
we can't boil anything down in this podcast.
Toast is very cool.
I tried.
Episode 4 was not a very good movie. In that
Eh.
when you watch it like without nostalgia, you just watch it for it being a movie, it is trying to convince itself of its own existence. And that is not good. Like it's trying to pull you into a pre-existing universe that it isn't even
Really established.
it hasn't established it whatsoever. The first lines in the movie are talking about things that already exist. And you're like, okay, I guess this exists now.
But that's
That's
Which
what
is-
I'm
which
saying,
is
that's
good,
what I'm saying.
But they don't do it in a good way. The way they go about it and the way they do it doesn't flow very well, and you're having to convince yourself that this world exists. By the second movie, you're fully convinced that it exists. And you're like, okay, cool. But throughout the very, like, almost the entirety of the first movie, you're having to convince yourself of this world's existence.
That's where
I'd
I
say
was
it's
kinda
janky
going
up.
with it, too.
As I said, I'd say it's a janky movie, but I would disagree fundamentally. But I don't want to have this fight.
Yeah, we
when
don't need to get into this now.
We're an hour and 40 minutes into this podcast, and we've spent half an hour talking about The Last Jedi. So
Only
I
an
feel
hour
like
and 40
we agree
minutes.
on the
yeah,
Only
We
half
just
an
spent
hour.
an hour.
Same points of Star Wars. But. Also, I really liked Rogue One.
I did too. We should do a full Star Wars podcast
I would
when
be down.
when Solo
Yeah,
comes out.
Yeah, I
Oh,
really
okay.
Well, then it has to be relevant. Then it'll be relevant. So.
Okay.
Okay, so do you have any other movies other than Star Wars that were?
It comes at night.
No, yeah,
You're
it
the
comes
one
at
that threw
night.
away my list.
Logan was fantastic. I thought it was like, I like movies that could make me really sad. Like, I come out of that movie and I'm like,
It's
holy
intense.
cow,
As a
dude. I'm
heartless
like,
bastard, I agree.
Ayo.
yeah. Yeah, and like Logan did that. Like, I don't know a lot of superhero movies that have made me like really emotionally attached. They're cool superhero movies and stuff, but like Logan was like from start to finish, dude. I was invested in those characters. Like,
Yup.
I still remember that cross scene, dude.
Don't. Andrew hasn't seen it.
so good.
Oh, Jesus shows up.
Classy.
Jesus.
He dies.
He condemns them of their
What?
sins.
It's like South Park. It's
But
Wait, are we
okay.
talking about Jesus or Logan?
Yes.
Because they both die.
It doesn't last.
Okay. He gets better.
He gets better.
I'm just having flashbacks now to South Park when they just call in on the public access show Jesus and Friends.
I remember that.
It's just like it's because apparently he's a low rent public access star that no one knows his existence. So, but moving on. Do you have anything else, or do you want to hand it over to Tom for now?
I can hand it over to Tom.
Okay.
All right.
Begrudgingly.
If we talk about Star Wars again, I swear.
It is not at all on my list anywhere.
Really?
Really.
All right, let's hear it.
So, firstly, a couple honorable mentions were Mother and It. Good movies. Don't really need to talk about those more at all. But then there's also Thelma, if you did not see that.
Selma?
I didn't get to see
Thelma.
That's like what?
Remind me. I've heard the title.
Thelma
Remind me of
is
what it's about.
kind of like a Carrie-esque movie.
Okay. Yes.
so you're- okay.
I just had to. I couldn't
Yeah,
replace
it's-
with the plot to the title.
It is less messed up than Carrie, but way more like visceral. Very good movie. I very much grew up enjoying
It's-
horror movies and
It's
things like that.
Swedish. Something like that?
Yes.
Danish.
Um,
Some Scandinavian.
It's Scandinavian of some kind.
Okay.
Really good movie. I definitely watch it if you can. Pretty good. 100%. If you at all enjoy horror movies. And now I have to tweak my list a little bit. Because
He's tweaking, bro.
I actually blocked Get Out of my memory because I saw it with an ex-girlfriend.
Oh.
So it's like now he mentioned, I was like, oh man, that was a good movie.
Oh.
That was a great movie.
That
Your ex-girlfriend soiled it.
Soiled it.
Not
Soiled it.
Um,
Soiled it.
Thank you.
Soiled it.
Thank you so much.
So I'm
Ooh.
going to actually take Wonder Woman off of my
You could do
list
like an 11. You could do like a top 11 list for
Bummer.
convenience.
and then put Get Out in its place and slap you. Wonder Woman was a good movie.
It is.
It was a great movie.
Oh, you're going too far there, but it was good.
I think it's
it was
great.
pretty great.
It was a great movie.
I think it's 1/3 of a great film.
I'm definitely more on AJ's side.
I
here.
think
don't-
it's
I think
2/3
great is
good.
too high.
It's a great movie.
It's
It's
Two-thirds good.
That's so.
I think the last third is.
Oh, the last third is awful.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what happens at the end of that
Exactly.
movie.
The first third on Themyscira and the second third where she's.
And I
Professor
saw it on
Lupin
New-
turns
and I-
into-
hey,
turns
AJ,
into a Greek
spoiler
god.
alert.
Andrew, I saw it on New Year's and I don't remember what happens at the end.
Professor Lupin
Yeah,
turns up
it's-
and
it's
he's
Captain
cast an
America: The Winter
Animagus
Soldier
show.
Part 2.
Anyways, moving on so we don't
No, not
spend
the Winter Soldier. First
more
one.
time on that. Get Out was great. I loved it. Funny stories about that movie. When I saw it in a theater in Bolingbrook with an ex-girlfriend, and right to the left of me was this interracial couple, and the dude just looked at this woman and just shook his head. And then he looked over and I saw him, I was like, and he was pointing, I was like, hey. He was like his eyes got very wide and his face sunk a little bit. I was like, I don't know why he had that expression. He just judged this woman because of this movie. It was a fun experience.
He discovered the truth.
Right. But no.
Are these in any particular order for this?
They are
Sorry, I was
in
just
particular order.
curious.
Moving on, number 9 was Atomic Blonde.
Interesting.
Good movie.
I have not seen this. I have not seen it yet because I had initially planned to because I was heard it was attached to the John Wick guys, and then the first reviews came out and it was coming off as really mediocre, so I didn't really bother to go out and see it. But I've been meaning to.
It's super good. Super good. I'm gonna try and expedite my list a whole lot.
So if it's stuff we've already talked about, then yeah.
And not all of it is. In fact, only like the top
You can
4 or 5 are.
you can bring them up if we haven't then.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them are like very. So the next one, number 8, is a very. It's an amazing movie. if my number one movie of the year was not released this year, it would probably actually jump the whole rest of the list.
Drum roll.
This is time for talking.
That doesn't make a lot of sense.
The name of the movie is The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Oh, nice.
I need to see that.
Thank you.
I saw it. I went out of my way to see it.
As you should have.
I super enjoyed The Lobster, so I want to see this.
Okay.
I forget the name of the director, but it's Yorgos something.
Yorgos
What's the movie
Lanthimos.
about?
What? Where's he?
Grease.
Yes.
Okay.
It is a dark comedy.
I didn't find it super funny. I thought it was kind of just dark.
Well,
But
it's- He that's
Yeah,
his style.
yeah.
Yorgos Lanthimos has a very
Um,
distinct
it's
sense
very-
of humor.
yeah.
Yes, and it's very blunt, very much in your face.
I
It
want to
is-
watch The Lobster again.
I mean, I will talk about this in a little bit, but I was laughing all the way through the Phantom Thread, so I thought it was weird that I wasn't.
I thought that was weird.
The audience was into it.
The whole crowd was like laughing pretty consistently. And I was just like,
They're
it's not.
they're bookish
I
hipsters,
kind of like it's smileable.
dude. That audience is
Smirked
full
a
of
couple
that.
times.
Dude, that audience was full of highly literate hipsters who got all their jokes. So it's whatever. We'll talk about it in a minute.
It's
you
not
see
that I,
it in the- at
it's
the
not that I
music
didn't
box?
get the
Yeah.
joke.
Shout out Gandhi.
What? Here was a high. Moving on. The Meyerowitz stories.
The which?
The Meyerowitz stories.
I knocked that
I did
off
not hear-
my
I've
list
not-
of
I've heard of
things
that.
to see before the year ended.
It's actually one of the few, in my opinion, good Adam Sandler movies.
Okay.
It
Dustin Hoffman as well.
yeah, just in a way, it is similar to Punch Drunk Love. It's a very damaged character. Very very good. It's a very compassionate movie. You can actually watch it on Netflix.
It's a Netflix movie, yeah.
It is. Very good. Directed by Noah Baumbach. Very good.
Oh wow.
So I guess I'll just keep moving on. A very movie that's very personal to me. I called him Morgan. Is about Lee Morgan. It's actually a documentary. Lee Morgan was a mid-centuries jazz musician who got gunned down by his wife.
Ooh.
And so it's a documentary that has original audio clips and original video clips of him, and it has an interview, a mid-90s interview with his wife in it. So it's really a really powerful story about drug abuse and abandonment and betrayal. It's a very very personal story to me. So I love jazz, and I've gone through all three of those things. So it's very very personal.
Movies are personal.
I
It is.
just gotta say, I'm really bummed that I didn't have any documentaries on my list this year. I had 2 on my top 10 last year, and I've seen a few this year. I just didn't put it in.
Did you see I Called Him Morgan?
No, I didn't.
You should.
I would love to.
I'm really bad watching modern documentaries.
I love them.
documentaries. I love them.
I just don't have time. I don't. I have to usually just watch everything else. So.
So
When I
then.
was- oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
When I was littler, I had the opinion that if you're not writing fiction, you're wasting my time. And I've gotten out of that opinion, but I haven't quite gotten out of that habit. So I don't usually watch nonfiction films or engage in those kind of things. But at least I admit that there's actually like a lot of value in that.
Secretariat.
That's not a documentary.
No, I know. I was just saying it.
No, that's-
That's
I'm trying to.
I have
don't
Secretariat Tourette's
I
every
don't
now and then.
remember. I don't
Just
remember
say
much about that,
secretariat.
but that was good. I do remember enjoying that.
Number 5, Screw You, AJ, is Okja.
Oh, he got called out.
It is,
That is
an amazing movie.
That is an ungood movie.
I will slap
That's double plus ungood. Stop saying newspeak in my house.
you.
Newspeak.
Read 1984.
Oh, sure.
Let the
I
man
have read
speak.
1984.
You illiterate.
I have.
It is. You can also watch that one on Netflix. It's not a Netflix movie, but it was bought by Netflix.
Do you like the 80s version of 1984?
I'm sorry.
It's John Hurt. So
Yeah. I mean, I love John Hurt.
yeah.
Why do you keep looking at me?
Dude, it's so freaking fun.
I won't. Why wouldn't
Thank
someone
you.
like looking at you?
You good?
Not a nice face to look at.
Put these back on.
Gay.
It's almost like John Candy.
It's almost like John Candy. Almost, but not quite John Candy.
It's sad. I would say that's the only disappointing thing I have to say about it. And your couple of your opinions on some video games. Anyways,
A couple of my
I never liked your
Stop!
Bionicles.
Stop!
hey,
Moving on.
Sorry.
I guess I'll move on from Okja. Watch Okja.
No.
Critique it for your shut the
No, actually. Sorry, I spoke prematurely. I think, as I said, no, you were saying something that I do agree with.
Watch it, critique it for yourself,
And decide that it's.
and decide it is a good movie.
Quick question: have you seen Train to Busan yet?
No.
You should. It's a really good Korean zombie movie.
That's also on Netflix, and I need to see it.
Did you say Train to Bosom?
Oh, just
Busan.
It's so over the top and preachy. So preachy.
It is preachy.
I hate getting preached at in movies.
I
It's
just
the worst part of Star Wars.
Fuck church.
You used your one swear already.
Dang it!
Rephrase.
I'll say it for you.
Darn church.
Hold on, I don't think you're gonna get in trouble for berating Christianity on YouTube. So.
Well, of course not.
Of course not. They're dumbasses and jackasses.
Oh, that's gonna get me in trouble actually.
Bring it.
Google, we love you.
Oh, I love Google. Like, hear me
All
out.
hail Google.
Don't-
Praise our future
I'm just waiting for the-
overlords.
I'm just-
Logan Paul can
Now
get
I
away
get-
with it. We
Now I get to enjoy.
Oh.
Now I get to enjoy one of the skeptics making fun of my video. Thanks.
For Jan.
Don't mention. Why would you do that?
Score. Let's just round it off with a good Illuminati. How about
75 days ago.
Shut up.
that? Okay.
We're all in the Illuminati.
Number 4.
Yes, that was a square.
I actually have Justice League on there
Really?
as number 4. Yeah.
Someone was wrong when I said.
Huge DC fan. Huge. Not everything was perfect about it, but it was. I would say it was as good as it could have been.
No.
I don't agree, but I mean, I will say this: I want to hear you out. I just don't agree.
It was entertaining. It's all that.
I would say it was as good as it could have been, knowing the failure it set itself up for. And the fact that it actually did very well made me very happy. Aquaman, as some people don't know my true list of favorite superheroes. Batman is not my favorite superhero because he's a vigilante.
That's a fair distinction.
My favorite superhero is Shazam, and then Aquaman.
Can we just use the term of metahuman just as a
Sure. At that
Which
point,
Batman is.
is still just a vigilante. He's just a man.
Okay.
And Shazam, Aquaman, Batman. They're amazing, and I was so glad to see Aquaman portrayed as the beast of a man he is. Only problem is they didn't give him the power of flight, which he has. I'm kind of confused about that.
He swims through the air.
It's a David Goyer movie, and he doesn't like superheroes, so
Yeah.
Or actually, it wasn't. But you can go ahead.
But it was. I liked that it expanded on some of the lore of the lesser known characters to the mainstream media. Doesn't know as much about Aquaman. Doesn't know as much about Cyborg. Very, very disappointed that Martian Manhunter was not in that movie.
You know why, right?
I would kill a fool.
You know why Martian Manhunter hasn't been part of the DC yet, right?
Yes, I do,
Yes, because David Goyer is an idiot, but
and I disagree.
yeah,
I disagree with him not being in it.
he's in the title, the title image for DC logo, so that
Yes.
they might change
So,
it.
Up until 2015, the only character that was in every single rendition of the Justice League was Martian Manhunter. No one else made every single rendition.
Not even the trio.
No, because Batman came out of it for a while, Superman came out of it for a while.
But that was a
Wonder
story.
Woman came out for a
But
while.
was the Batman thing the Tower of Babel? Because I know that was a
No.
story reason. But,
No.
Okay.
But there was a time which he was not in the Justice League.
Huh.
And there was times in which both Wonder Woman and Superman were not in the Justice League. But Martian Manhunter has been in every single Justice League, and when they took him out for Cyborg, I got very offended. I like Cyborg, don't get me wrong. I love Cyborg. But it was just a very huge blow to all the fans to see a character like Martian Manhunter just get tossed aside like that because you don't know how to do the character or what you get out of it.
I feel like that's something that would usually immediately take that off your list.
Typically, but they did a good job by Cyborg, and I'm okay with that. Could Martian Manhunter have made a much better storyline? Yes. But they did a good job. And then they had the Flash, which is just... I liked that they did the Flash right. Fairly right. Made him very quippy.
I'd say
and-
60 to 70%. But...
Yeah. Depending on which Flash you're going with, he's very quippy and very much fighting is not my thing. I'm just kind of fast. And more of get in safe people and get out. It was very much his thing.
Push people and run away.
They didn't do the X-Men Apocalypse thing where the Speedster is the unintentionally the most powerful character in the
Right.
movie.
Can I add something to the whole Justice League thing?
Go for it.
I feel like because I went to go see that movie with major Marvel fanboys that don't, and I feel like that movie was decent, and I feel like it wasn't that bad. I think the problem was that the most people that went to see it didn't know who a lot of those characters were to start off with,
Right.
and so, and I'll admit, like, the movie didn't really set them up very well. So, like, unless you know who the characters are, I feel like you weren't really impressed with the movie.
Well, that's one
You
thing
know what I'm
that
saying?
going back a little bit, and maybe I shouldn't, but I haven't seen Justice League, so I can't
If
necessarily.
you say Star Wars again, I swear.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
You
and
said
Rogue
Star
One
Wars.
was pretty good. No.
You just said Star Wars.
I
I just said Star Wars.
Last words.
No, it was just really interesting because, one of the biggest criticisms that people had for Batman vs Superman was that it was like half a movie dedicated to trying to set up Justice League, and it didn't even do people who saw that movie justice for setting up this other movie. That was another.
Oh yeah.
I would have really liked I still think they could do a good job, but with the one thing I will say is Marvel did a very good job of getting us to care about the characters, and they're doing a lot worse at this point, and it makes me sad.
Marvel is, or
I think
Marvel
Like,
is,
like with that.
but it just doesn't feel like DC gives a crap.
so.
well, they care. They give a crap. They just don't know what they're doing.
That's probably more fair.
They don't know how to structure the story to build and to create something bigger.
I actually disagree with both of those statements. They very much know what they're doing. The people they're hiring don't know what they're doing.
But they gave it entirety to Zack Snyder and
I
told
think
him to
that's almost
shape
the
it.
same thing.
That's the thing.
So here's the thing.
Who are we referring to as they?
DC editorial.
So Marvel started off by making a bunch of individual character movies and then compiled them, which made themselves a very strong box office competitor. DC can't do that. They're not allowed to do that.
My rebuttal to that would have been, do you know about Justice League Mortal?
Yes.
Would you have wanted to see that?
No.
Why?
Reasons.
Okay. Can you summarize it in a way that's not too personal, or?
No.
Fair enough. I'm just saying. I thought that pitch sounded interesting. I wouldn't.
I'm sorry.
I basically, it would have been very. I realistically think a lot of the things that were the direction that they went with the movie for its first introduction as Justice League wasn't bad because it wrote multiple of the characters into the story except Superman. But a better route would have been going with one of the the early series of the Justice League comics.
Like the Justice Society?
No, because that's a totally different thing. Justice
Okay.
Society is very different from Justice League. Which, if they ever had a Justice Society movie, oh my god, I would need new pants.
I've heard some sort of muttering is they're gonna bring the Question at some point. That could open up a door. So
Yeah, it could. Radiant Stargirl, Galaxy Man,
yeah.
Doctor Fate.
Oh yeah.
Dude, I love Dr. Fate.
And so basically, I really liked the movie because part of it was because I really wanted it to do well, and it did do well. So I gave it elevated marks simply because it had very high odds to fail, and it didn't. So that to me that's what made it a much higher movie on my list, is that it did not fail. And it was a successful movie. It was a very high grossing movie, and that's a good thing. It made it on a lot of people's top 10 lists. Like, good. So it had an even higher place on mine.
Whose top 10 lists? I'm not saying you're wrong, but
People who have seen 10 movies, including Justice League.
I don't want to be mean to Tom, because Tom is.
It's so easy to hate on it.
It
It
is.
really is, and
Because a lot of people are
I don't hate it.
indoctrinated
I actually
in-
liked it. I think more than it seems most critics did. I'm not saying I'm a critic, but
I
no,
think
it was very fun. It was better than it had any right to be, given the circumstances. But it wasn't good.
I would say that a lot of people are very wrongfully indoctrinated in Marvel movies. And when I say wrongfully, I mean that they expect a DC movie to be on the same level and same hype and the same structure of a Marvel movie, and it's not. And they're like, well, this movie sucks. Like, well, you don't know that Superman's not Marvel, so you can shut up. People of that caliber make up a good percentage of moviegoers. They don't know the difference. They don't know that DC is not Marvel.
Most people are only interacting with the passing familiarity with the characters, though.
Right. So when people say, "Oh, well, it wasn't like, Winter Soldier." Well, no, it wasn't like, how Infinity War is gonna be.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing because it's not the same kind of movie and it's not the same tones at all.
I would say.
I think
they're
the
expecting a lot
worst
of
part.
comedy.
It would have failed even harder if it tried to be.
Well, I think the thing is, Marvel way overstepped their bounds and went to the serious aspect and very dark aspect. That is where DC thrives.
In what movies?
In a lot of their movies.
Well, it depends on the movie, because certain ones are pulpy and
They're
colorful and stuff.
Well,
but-
yeah, they have those, but a lot of their themes went way more dark than they should have, and more. Honestly, they went into DC territory. DC has always been known for being detective comics and known for being figure it out and very dark and having brooding characters and brooding stories. Not that Marvel didn't have those, but it wasn't the majority of what they were meant to be.
I would basically agree with that, because there are dark, Marvel characters like Daredevil and Jessica Jones, but for the most part, I'd say you're overstating it slightly, because a lot of the dark stuff has really been post 1980 kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
But there's definitely a reputation for DC as being darker, so.
Yeah, and the thing is, Marvel made their movies that way as well. And you're like, you just made it so much harder for DC to make a dark movie like they do, to be dark, and not go overboard with it and make it very bad. They really kind of put a noose around DC to make a dark movie. And either you're going to succeed and blow Marvel out of water, or you're not going to be as good as them and just, it's not as good of a movie.
I mean, I think if you look at this backtrack and look at the steps that DC has taken, I think they did make the right steps at the right times. They hired a guy and who was a famous auteur director who's done a couple good films. They gave him complete creative control, which is for most instances that's usually a good thing, because I like it when they give artists creative control. They spent years developing the Man of Steel sequel. They curated the best actors they could, even though they were controversial decisions.
Yes.
They went out of their way to try to do something to make DC Comics the slower and the headier and the darker version of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think the problem is that they made missteps in the character development and overestimating their abilities as storytellers. And they took weird digressions with Suicide Squad and stuff like that that didn't help the structure of their story.
I did not like that movie, and it made me almost suicidal.
Suicide Squad was awful.
It was
It
trash.
was, and Margot Robbie needs to stop acting and never, ever get on the screen again.
Is that the Joker? Yet?
That's much.
No, that's Jared Leto. But
That was Harley Quinn. She should never have had that role.
That's fine. But say she should never act again.
And she should. She shouldn't. She should dunk her head in a bowl of acid.
I don't agree, but Tom's obviously emotional about this, so I'm happy to just let it
Harley
be.
Quinn was one of my first loves as a child, and she destroyed that character for me.
That explains a lot.
Absolutely destroyed. Hey, I'm not going to deny it was.
I've made that joke many times before.
Yeah, it
It's just on
absolutely-
microphone now.
She absolutely destroyed the character, and to know what that character could have been, knowing some of the people who were up for the role as Harley Quinn. One of them was Alison Brie, who played Annie. In
Oh wow.
Yeah.
No.
I would have.
She would have been so much better.
Thank you.
Yeah, she
Oh
would
my
have. She would have.
That's the most wholesome way to put the things I was thinking.
I
Oh
don't.
my.
I
just
just
imagining-
can't see that.
I'm just imagining the wizard swears meme right about now.
Tom, we're on
Your
the same
mother is a
wavelength tonight.
ing.
We're-
Beep, 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 beep.
We're on the same wavelength today.
So anyways, moving
So
on.
would that?
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna ask. Would that have been your dream casting? I guess if
Yes,
Alison Brie.
Alison Brie, 100%.
I don't
I
know
could
that
see
I
her.
agree
I'm
with
curious
that.
what you guys are saying that I'm not.
Let's just
Yeah.
let's move on because we've been on Justice League for the past like 15 minutes.
It's been a while.
Justice League.
Number 3, I'm actually going to remove this one from my list entirely. It was Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Great movie. I'll put it on my honorable mentions.
My
But I
favorite of
also-
the MCU movies.
But I
would
also
say.
forgot about
It's fair.
Trainspotting 2, and that's where number 3 is going to go.
Okay.
I was a big fan of the first one, and I remember when AJ and I first heard that there was going to be a second, we wanted to see it together. We ended up not seeing it together.
I don't remember it coming near us.
Yeah,
I think that was the. And
Yeah.
I guess we just didn't.
we didn't really
Seek
plan
it
that
out.
at all. Yeah, I'm also a huge fan of Ewan McGregor. So,
Sure.
Like,
As everyone should be.
Yeah.
Correct.
Conor McGregor.
Ewan.
No, wrong one.
Ewan
Wrong discussion.
McGregor, who of course was Obi-Wan Kenobi in
I
the
love you, Ewan.
prequels, and there is an Obi-Wan Kenobi standalone movie supposedly being made, and there are rumors of him potentially being sought for the position.
That'd be super.
I would be happy with that.
He has spoken on this after the Golden Globe Awards that he would completely love to do that, and I would love to see that happen.
I don't see
I'm
why
sure
they
he- I'm
wouldn't
su-
cast him.
I'm sure he'd like a movie that where he plays Obi-Wan where the critics don't like berate him for it, but
Yeah, I mean, he was. I will make the controversial statement that he was a better Obi-Wan than Alec Guinness.
because he
I agree.
actually
I agree.
likes the role.
Yes.
Yeah, he liked
Alec
it.
Guinness hates it.
I think that's.
Hated
I
it.
think that's probably true. I mean, part of it, it's a little bit difficult to necessarily gauge that given.
Screen time.
Yeah, given screen time, but
Dude, Alec,
then again, I mean, Obi-Wan Kenobi in the prequels is like, in my opinion, the best character. And
in the
Correct.
original, Alec
then-
Guinness was
Yeah.
famous for hating Star Wars. He
Yeah.
did it mostly for the paycheck, and
So if you own a copy of one of the special edition episode 3, there are interviews, and one of them is called "Becoming Obi-Wan" with Ewan McGregor, in which he talks about becoming Obi-Wan and really his progress as the character.
Spoilers.
And how much he sat and watched Alec Guinness over and over and over every time before getting on screen, every single time. how he imitated like even his speech patterns a little bit and his movement patterns. And I honestly think he did a way better job of playing the character. He also had a lot more time to play the character, so that also kind of throws a lot in his favor. But anyways, Trainspotting 2, great movie. Great movie. If you did not see the original, do it.
I'm a
And then see the sequel.
Last Star
Because
Wars comic.
they're-
Last Star Wars comic into the night. The Star Wars prequels might be the best cast movies ever.
Very,
What?
Wait,
Like,
what
I-
did you
like,
just say?
I
just
agree.
Wait,
I
what'd you
know
say?
it's controversial, but like you think about how many like amazing actors are in them.
In what?
The
Fight.
prequels, the Star Wars prequels,
See, here's the thing. I could get on board with that
if they weren't badly used.
if they weren't badly used,
Raymond Park.
and if
One person.
Lando
Ewan
Calrissian.
McGregor.
Two people.
like I'm sorry, I can't get
Samuel
into the
Jackson.
prequels because of Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
That's the problem. But
Like,
that's,
Stop hating on Hayden Christensen.
Samuel L. Jackson does not belong
Stop it.
in a Star Wars.
Just leave
movie.
Hayden Christensen
the
alone.
problem with Mace Windu is not that he's a bad character, is that they mischaracterized. They miscast him. Like he
You just got done saying that they're the best cast movies ever.
Hold on. Here's the nuance. They either needed to have rewritten Mace Windu as a different character or chosen an actor who was more suited for that particular role. That's the only problem I have with it.
Denzel Washington.
Denzel.
They needed someone who had more of a quiet intensity to him instead of
Damn,
someone who's famous for
Denzel.
being boisterous.
Super
and,
shouty, yeah. Although I felt
I'm
like,
shouting yes.
like he wasn't a great pick. I felt like he did okay given who he was.
I would love to see.
Okay, off of Star Wars.
If-
Yes, we're done. We're done.
Can I just real quick say-
We're done.
If they do a Mace Windu movie, Chadwick Boseman.
Okay. Moving on to number 2. Actually, a character I have always had almost pure disdain for up until the early 2000s. Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Interesting.
I always hated Spider-Man. I read some Spider-Man comics. I watched the Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man animated series. It wasn't bad. Was not a fan of it. Loved Tobey Maguire's movies so much.
Oh my.
I love it.
Fight anyone who says they are not great.
2.5.
All 3 of them. It was a very, very good movie. I've never been in the idea of a very young teenage Peter Parker. It's never been like my ideal state of Spider-Man.
You prefer him like Married to Mary Jane? That era?
No, even starting in like not becoming Spider-Man until late high school at the most, when you can actually
Tobey
have a
Maguire.
fucking job.
Like Tobey Maguire.
Yes, like Tobey Maguire, because
Okay.
he did it right. And you know, Tom Holland does a great job. And Aunt May though. I would do some evil things to that movie.
Oh boy.
No.
Evil like you hate her, or evil like sexually,
Yes.
or both.
Maybe a little bit
Whatever
both.
she
Okay.
wants.
Whatever gets her whip going.
Who says that?
I do.
Apparently Thomas.
Anyways,
I gotta get going soon.
I think
It
we're
was
wrapping up. I don't know
absolutely
what
a great
Tyler's gonna
movie.
talk about.
That's why I'm gonna talk about his.
He'll probably just say, "Read my book."
Buy my book. And
He has a
then
book?
the number one, for me, the number one movie of 2017, without fail, is Dunkirk.
Okay.
AJ and I saw that together.
Did you not say Lady Bird?
That was my honorable mentions. I've told you multiple times, that's like number 11 on my list.
That's what this was?
1-1, yes!
I thought that was at first I thought it was.
I thought it was
one.
2 number 1s.
Second.
We are number
then
1.
I thought it was
number
We're
one
number
twice.
1.
Then I thought it was number 2.
No.
But make
Double
that-
plus
that's
1.
It's 11. Number 1 is Dunkirk. Huge
I never
history
saw it.
fan, history buff. I want to be a history teacher. So it's kind of a good.
I feel like you'd be a very like half Nelson teacher. Post half.
Here's
Nelson.
my report on the grapes of wrath. Here's the grapes, and here's the wrath. That was from The Simpsons.
I was gonna
Oh,
say,
okay.
if I had to guess,
Andrew,
I was like, what's with
Was
the
that-
super high pitched voice? Are
was
you
that
trying to
one of-
imitate Thomas with a
No.
ridiculously high?
That was
voice?
Nelson Muntz, but I was just thinking of
oh,
it's like
that
gotcha.
Nelson?
yeah.
Wow, I was wondering how we got there.
you will not take it from me.
It's the second time I've heard you quote that today.
My dad quoted it too.
You're angry.
Oh, it was
You're
so
lo-
Oh, sorry. Dunkirk, history teacher.
Dunkirk
F.
was
Nelson. Sorry.
Dunkirk was an amazing movie, and like as you pointed out a lot of times, it's a very short story. Like within 2-3 days time maximum.
I think
Even
less than 36 hours.
Yeah, it's like a 24-hour story, and there's a lot that happens. There's a lot of emotion in it.
I gotta see this.
There's a lot of emotion in the Siege of Dunkirk as it is as a
Technically,
point.
Has it come out
the
yet?
framing of the movie says that each of the
Dunkirk?
3 stories
Like on
takes place in a
DVD or
different
anything?
time
Yeah,
frame.
sure.
So
I haven't seen it.
one is 7 hours, one is 7 days, and one is 7 weeks, I think.
Yeah.
So it's
well, like the Siege of Dunkirk and the Operation Dynamo is like a maximum of 36-hour time frame.
Real, just another movie we saw together. A perfect companion piece to this, to
Yes.
Dunkirk. The Darkest Hour.
The Darkest Hour.
Is it The Darkest Hour or It's just Darkest Hour.
Darkest Hour.
Anywho.
yeah.
Watch the-
Amazing movie.
We'll talk about that in a
Watch them in
we,
tandem.
We will
Yeah,
talk
I'm
about.
back to
Hold on, we'll
Darkest
talk about
Hour.
Darkest Hour in a minute.
That's a
We can-
fantastic.
because that's gonna show up on my list. So
That was
Oh.
our 2017 movie.
Yes,
I
it was.
should probably go.
You saw it.
okay,
in 2018.
if Joe needs to go, he can
I
go.
thought
But
it was at the beginning of 2018. Well then, things are all getting pushed down.
El Buzzo
Except Dunkirk,
Lightyear.
that's still number
okay,
one.
now that we've gotten through
Your
everyone.
list is very shoddily made, I must say.
It's not very shoddily.
No,
Not
that was
quite
that,
as
that
shallow
was
as
well thought.
mine.
I like your selection.
Joe's.
Thank you.
Now that we're through everyone, and since Joe needs to go soon, I'll go through mine. I'm reading off of my my top 10 Hummy Awards article, which I must thank Rhiannon again for the wonderful image of me with the my head on top of the award statue. But
That was great.
it's just still beautiful. But
Well done.
have fun.
Thanks for sharing.
So I'm just gonna be reading
You're
off
not
of
gonna
this.
go home. Oh.
I'm gonna make one small a thing to it. So basically, I'm gonna do a top 11. Hi, Dad, again.
It's bad again.
He's waving at us, but okay. So, films I missed this year. I did not see Ghost Story. I did not see Detroit, Loving Vincent, Valerian City of a Thousand Planets, 3 Billboards, Molly's Game, Okja, The Beguiled, The Post. I did just see Phantom Thread, so that's no longer on that. I did not see Silent Voice or The Emoji Movie. And there's a bunch of other
Do you want
ones.
to
that
see
I-
the Emoji Movie?
Huh?
I
Well,
think
I only
It's a
did.
classic.
I didn't mention that specifically because I didn't want people wondering why it wasn't on the worst of list. And
of
last year.
All time.
of what I caught from that, because it went by fast and my brain worked slow. I saw Loving Vincent and A Ghost Story. Loving Vincent should deserve so much praise, not because it's like a fantastic, but like
Its style, I've heard it's amazing. Like
because
story.
Vincent needs love.
Do you know what they did?
it's frame by frame hand painted.
Yes.
It's a hand painted animated movie. Yes.
In the style of like Vincent Van Gogh.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yes.
How have I never heard of this?
It's an art
It
film.
was very
Because
limited
no one
release.
said no, because it didn't say Van Gogh.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, when it said Loving Vincent, I
Gandhi.
assumed it had something to do with Van Gogh.
Oh, you're not
but,
sitting
like,
back down.
No, I'm good.
Okay, good to see you, man.
Dang.
See you, Joe.
You cuddling, EJ?
It's what?
You're just like,
I'm gonna get in on this.
Remember this, kids. Buzzo Lightyear Road.
remember this is a podcast about a family. This is a podcast.
At the end of the day, this podcast is about family.
Alright. So yeah, Loving Vincent. The story is so-so, but just because of the animation,
Alright, guys.
it's so worth the watch. Just beautiful.
I know.
And A Ghost Story is about as
So,
artsy as it gets.
fun story about-
I don't know if I've seen a more artsy movie this year than A Ghost Story.
Fun story. I tried to show that to my friends in the self-named group, and we put it on we got through the first scene up until the point where he dies, and
Spoiler.
that's the whole point of the plot of the movie. Whatever. So we got to that point, and at that point, my friend Damien, who's been on the show before, he came in exactly during the scene where they're in bed together, and he's like, "Guys, what movie are you watching right now?" And I was like, "It's an art film." It's like, "That sounds about right." And about 10 minutes into it, we all kind of called it quits because we were like, "This is not a group watch movie."
Oh no.
So then we immediately put on a double feature of The Big Sick and Get in Good Time. So, which ended up being pretty good, played well, but that movie, Ghost Story does not play well to an audience when the audience is not art fans.
It's a cool choice to portray the ghost as literally a bedsheet with two eye holes. That's cool.
So yeah, in terms of moving on to worst films of 2017. Now I should say,
Wait, we had a worst list.
I have a worst list. I'm just reading off of it because
Oh,
I'm not gonna. I don't want to go into it, but I know this is gonna be controversial. So, The Mummy, Live by Night, Pirates of the Caribbean 5, The Dark Tower, the Lego Ninjago film, Kingsman 2, Laser Team 2, and unfortunately for him, I threw Justice League and Ghost in the Shell on this but I wouldn't say that they were like
Ghost in the Shell, right?
terrible, but
Oh.
I wouldn't say they were terrible, but they would qualify as that segment of the list.
My opinion is officially harmed someone.
Are you okay?
I can die happy.
My opinion is physically harmed another human being. I could die happy.
It was the way I craned. my
Okay,
neck.
moving on from that, we get okayest movies of 2017. Alien Covenant, Kong Skull Island, Spider-Man Homecoming, Fate of the Furious, Beauty and the Beast, and then Murder on the Orient Express and Mother. But I will say, I liked Murder on the Orient Express a lot. I just thought it was not great.
Yeah.
My most entertaining bad movie of 2017, Patriots Day.
Wait, what?
Did you
The
see
Boston Marathon one?
Yeah,
Wow.
I liked it a lot, but it was not a good movie.
I didn't know that would be described as entertaining or bad.
I thought it was entertaining.
I mean, it was bad.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I have most entertaining bad movie as a category for it's a bad movie and I loved it.
I thought that was highly critically acclaimed. I haven't seen it, no.
I know a lot of critics who hated it. So, but movie that would be the best film of the year if it did not come out this year, Martin Scorsese's Silence. But and then my runners-up, which I have. You didn't like it?
It was 3 hours long. Dude.
Commie. But anyway, runners-up.
That has nothing to do with that.
That's just my general insult. it's very efficient.
It's a
Call him
good
a
general.
Philistine.
In fairness,
He's a
Or
Philistine.
heathen. That would be appropriate.
That's pretty good.
I
you're
prefer
devaluing
Philistines, that's funny.
the word communism because, I mean, we already. Never mind.
Let's stop. So runners-up, I've got 20 movies in the runners-up segment. It Comes at Night, Wind River, Killing of a Sacred Deer, The Red Turtle, the Lego Batman movie, Split, Thor Ragnarok, Your Name, Wonder
I
Woman,
almost said Split.
Logan Lucky, Colossal, The Big Sick, Coco, All the Money in the World, Good Time, Get Out, Dunkirk, Brawl on Cell Block 99, and The Disaster Artist.
Woof.
But obviously I like them all. So yeah,
Red Turtle is one of the more boring movies I've ever seen in my life.
it's a French animated film.
It's a Wonderful Life.
You respect it, you don't enjoy it.
And White Christmas, two of the most boring movies I've ever seen.
White Christmas, I'll accept.
Yeah,
I don't know.
White Christmas.
I don't agree about
also
that.
accept.
Super boring.
I don't agree, but whatever. It's a weirdly
And
structured film, but
I thought Colossal was a bad movie.
I don't. We could talk about that. What didn't you like about it?
Okay, where to start?
Good job.
I'm on the edge.
I'll
of my
just
seat.
go with my main thing that just I was already kind of out of it by then, but when she travels to Japan and somehow knows exactly where to grab Jason Sudeikis back in Ohio.
It's not difficult to
Whatever.
figure out where to grab a man.
Wah, wah.
Like
On his ear.
she's in
Wah, wah.
Japan, so the kaiju is back in the States, and she knows exactly where to pick up a normal-sized human as a giant monster.
It doesn't matter at that point. But it's a story about her overcoming her addiction. So it's more. I don't think it's more to do with
She
that.
got
than anything else.
abused into overcoming it. It was more so a story,
Well, there's a lot of things going on in it.
like
so.
and yeah, it just didn't work for me. I can imagine, or I can I'll accept other people liking it because it had a few things going for it. It
I
just
mean,
didn't work for me.
I've seen a couple critics throw it into the top 10 list, and I wouldn't agree to that. My thing is that I think it's the kind of really good movie that's the kind of movie you make to prove that you can make a better movie. Like you make this film, and then you show it to the like people in Hollywood, and it's like I can do this but better, and then you end up directing Godzilla 3. But you know what I mean?
Okay,
It's the kind of movie that breaks you into Hollywood more than anything else. But
I suppose.
But I thought it was good for what it's worth, and I do want to note,
It just didn't sit well with me, I guess.
my number 12 and 11, which would technically be Brawl and Cellblock 99 and Disaster Artist. I want to talk about those briefly. Did anyone else see Disaster Artist?
No, I wish I did.
Okay, it's very very good. Like I've seen a couple critics have gone like have tried to kind of bash it a little bit, and I don't buy that, but it's very good.
Have you
And-
seen The Room?
Yes.
And
I've seen the Disaster
Brawl and
Artist, not
Cellblock
The Room.
99, which I did not have any sort of expectations for it, and I didn't want to see it until I heard everyone tell me that it's a great movie, and I did. It's probably the single most violent film I've seen this year. And the height of the film, the height of the film's violence, a man pushes a guy so hard into the ground that his face, the skin on his face rips off. And the guy, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The guy who directed it is a guy named S. Craig Zahler. He did Bone Tomahawk, and next year he's going to be directing a movie with Mel Gibson in it about police violence. So
Oh, that'll be.
Ooh.
that's quite the combination, I must say.
Yep.
But
Yeah. Lethal Weapon 6.
and for good measure, Vince Vaughn's in it. So,
We skipped that one.
but yeah, that's
Mel
my.
Gibson was in jail for that.
Those are my two favorite runners-up. So 10 is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, which we have talked to death about.
Not to death. We've talked to death about Star Wars.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Okay. 9 is Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water, which I've seen a few people have some very controversial opinions on, but I thought it was very good.
Controversial opinion: water doesn't have a shape. Sorry.
Do you know what the movie's about? It's about a woman who falls in love with the
Oh
creature from
no,
the
I
Black
do. I
Lagoon,
do know.
so-
Yeah, I have heard about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting weird reactions, but it's largely because of the subject matter. And yeah, but number 8, War for the Planet of the Apes, and the director of this is directing the next Batman movie, which is good which I think is good.
I haven't seen a single Planet of the Apes movie.
Nor have I.
Have you seen the original?
I would like to.
Nor wouldn't I.
Concise. Yeah, I think AJ is burnt
I would
out.
like to.
I know.
Oh, okay.
I was trying to play off, but it didn't work.
AJ's like gone.
I'm sleepy.
Have you seen the original Planet of the Apes?
I have not.
we are
I haven't.
Okay.
2.5
leaving
hours
one
into this,
day.
so I'm gonna wrap this up. So
No, I want it to go forever.
I have crap I need to do.
I have
But-
food I need to eat.
I have
So
people
number
I need
7,
to
Star
see.
Wars: The Last
Nothing
Jedi, and that's the last you will hear the word Star Wars tonight, or I'm throwing them out of the room. Number 6, Baby Driver, which we already talked about. Number 5, Darkest Hour, which you talked about a lot, and I liked a lot.
We didn't really talk about it a lot at all.
You- but outside of the podcast, we talked about it.
mentioned
He talked about it. Tom was talking it up a lot last time I saw him. So
Yeah.
Nothing exists.
Had you
outside of the
seen it
podcast.
at that point?
Huh?
I didn't.
The world is
I saw it like the
Only the
week
podcast
either
is
before or
full.
after Christmas. I don't remember.
Okay, so you had seen it by the time.
Yeah,
That's right. We were talking about it, and I'd asked you, you saw it, and you said you had.
yeah, I liked it
Super
a
good.
lot. It's a very good performance film. Number 4,
Yeah, he's gonna win Best Actor.
he's the best ostrich,
He will win
2017.
Best Actor at the Oscars.
Anyone portraying Winston Churchill is now the best ostrich.
It's crazy saying that in a year that Daniel Day-Lewis made a movie, but I predict that Gary Oldman will win Best Actor.
Yeah, number 4,
Deservedly.
Blade Runner 2049. I don't know if anyone saw that, but
Yes.
It was on my honorable mentions.
okay, I didn't. You didn't go over. Did you go over honorable mentions?
I would've-
I started to and then realized there were too many.
I would have
I had
liked
a
to
lot.
have seen that one, but I haven't seen the original Blade Runner. So
I'll show it to you at some point because it's very good.
I have
yeah,
it on
I've
but it's-
Laserdisc in Virginia.
Nice.
oh boy.
Come on over.
Fucking
No.
hipster.
That's the only thing I've history.
I only listen to
And
music
this
on
sweater.
beta. But
Wow.
but yeah, number 3.
8-track or nothing.
Yeah.
You know, 45.
Great story. Absolutely gorgeous. Didn't need to be as long as it was.
I don't know. But number 3, Lady Bird.
Yeah.
Which I liked a lot, and everyone else did.
Very good.
Number 2, John Wick Chapter 2. Which
Two?
Yeah.
Wow.
I love
I
John
remembered it
Wick
being
2.
on your list. Number 2.
Yeah, I really like this film. Like, of everything I saw this year, this is probably one of my favorites. It's the perfect version of that version sequel as I can imagine it, so.
Wow. I
Oh.
guess you feel like
Okay.
feel that. I guess the way you feel about that movie is how I feel about Justice League.
That's
Like,
fair. I mean,
I did not get in. Like okay, so I went and saw John Wick 2. I got it from Redbox. I actually rented it 3 times from Redbox before I actually saw it.
I thought that was the first John.
No, that was the second one. And the first one I watched with you.
Yeah, you did.
But like I did not enjoy that movie.
really.
It was a good movie. I just didn't enjoy it.
Okay.
The most I've seen of John Wick is the Nerf YouTube video.
Oh jeez.
I would defend the second one a lot. I think it's kind of a supposed to be like a takedown of the first. Not the first film like is a bad thing. Just like the idea of a character whose life is what John Wick's life is, and it's trying to just explore how that would play out when he's constantly stuck in this cycle where the more he does, the more he just digs his hole deeper. So I think it's more interesting than people give it credit for. But I thought it was one of the most beautiful films I've seen this year, but really solid. But
This is not the first comparison to these two franchises, but I feel the same way I do about John Wick that I do about The Raid.
that's
Where the first movie is just a perfect balls to the wall action
yes.
thriller. The second one expands the world more than it needs to, but it still works.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay, I can get on that.
I've heard the only complaint I've heard about The Raid 2 is just that there's too much action in it, which is a weird complaint. But
That's
Yeah.
the point of it, and it's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's
And it keeps upping it.
yeah,
Which is insane.
It's
It
probably why they
starts
haven't
at
got-
a 10.
it's probably why they haven't gotten around to a third one yet. 'Cause
it's like what they did with the Fast and the Furious franchise, but with violence. They just kept going more over the top. Like this is enough.
Okay, and my number one
I
is
thought
Logan.
you were gonna
so-
make a jab about family again.
But yeah, my number one is Logan. That was I don't know if it would necessarily be my favorite film of the year, but it's probably the one I respect the most that came out this year. So.
How do you feel about Get Out?
I gave that an honorable mention, but it wasn't on my my top 10. So
Wow. Okay.
it's very good. I have so much respect for Jordan Peele for doing that, but I have a hard time kind of gauging the film on its own terms, considering it's one of those films that doesn't exist in a vacuum, so it's really hard to kind of just engage with it as a film without the context that there's a lot of people that consider it to be very politically important right now. So it's kind of hard to just like look at
I
it.
didn't even care about that. I know that. I
mean,
knew that
I-
was going on, but
I appreciate that you can do that. But I pay attention to the political space a lot, and
Fair
obviously that just it clouds the space a lot.
I actively try to
I-
ignore it.
I really liked that movie. It
And-
was really good.
I think I gave it like it would have been like number 13 or 14, and that's not a slight against the film at all. Like,
Yeah.
because I
There's
thought
a
it
lot
was
of
great.
good movies that came out this year.
There really
Yeah.
are.
That was the problem. It was in
The problem.
I feel
there's too many good movies.
I feel like this year has just been a really 2017 was just a really good year in terms of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Everyone online is complaining about it.
Movies, politics.
Politics 10 out of 10.
Have you
have
but been on Twitter lately?
Politics. I have the best politics.
He doesn't.
ask anyone, they'll say it too.
Anyways, I also like.
It's like saying I have the
Split
best
was-
taste in movies.
Split was definitely an honorable mention of mine. Absolutely loved that movie.
If only just because M. Night Shyamalan actually made a good movie.
He did for once.
For once.
Been like 20 years, but yeah.
That's
Um,
fair.
but
You can say it's been forever,
15.
but he has made decent movies.
It's been a long time.
I
He probably hasn't made a good movie since The Last Airbender.
I'm gonna kick you in.
I have only seen The Sixth Sense and Split. I'm
You should-
realizing.
Oh, interesting.
You should
and
watch.
I need to watch more.
Yeah, you should.
it-
You should. There,
It seriously, Split was just, it was really good. The small amount of detail that was in that movie that you don't exactly see the first time through, like on the computer, you know, that they have in there. There's, without spoiling anything, there's a lot of detail in it. a lot of things that you have to watch it the second time.
Was he the one who made the grainy horror movie?
The Visit.
The Visit, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Grainy
Okay.
horror?
Yes.
He also did it After Earth.
It's a very good way to explain that movie.
It's the
Grainy
first thing that came to-
horror.
Oh,
I was just-
Granny.
That's the movie where
I heard
at the moment.
grainy.
Oh.
That's the
it
movie
was
where
just
the-
like poorly focused.
That's the movie where at the height of the tension of the film, the moment that's supposed to most reference the climax or the moment of no hope, an old lady shoves a diaper in the face of a young man.
I just remember the trailers for that movie where like the grandma opens up the oven and is like,
Oh,
get
yeah,
in or whatever. And I'm
yeah.
like, I can't take this movie seriously.
Of course.
Split. James Mann.
Great performance.
I don't know why. I wish he was being talked about more for awards consideration. I don't know why. I have no idea. Because I think that is the best performance.
It's a very,
Yeah.
very good
It's
performance.
so nuanced.
Not many people can play that many people in the movie.
It's so
In one movie,
incredibly
no.
nuanced and like.
Jim Carrey could.
Jim Carrey could, but he didn't.
Jim Carrey did it in Lemony Snickets.
He didn't. But it's not as many characters.
It's not as many characters.
I love that trailer. Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. Great early 2000s movie trailers.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah. Was there anything else you want to cover tonight? Since it's starting to get dark out actually. It's 4 o'clock.
It
I
just
think.
popped into my mind. What was one of your categories was best bad movie that you loved?
Patriots Day.
So, right. I remember that. But
Your category itself.
okay. I'm sure there are plenty, but the one that just popped into my head was The Babysitter, which is a Netflix movie.
Okay, yeah.
So fun. I just had a blast.
I
It
actually
was just
watched
it
that
was
recently.
not good,
No.
but I had a lot of fun.
I need to watch some of these movies that are on Netflix. If I had realized all of them were on Netflix, I would have been able to actually watch 10 movies.
It's not all of them, but
Well, no,
there's
but I
some-
mean,
some of them
Yeah.
are.
it was like Oakjar or whatever that you said was on there.
Or you know,
Nightmare with Satan
a
Jesus
good
on
movie.
there.
Tom just threatened to kill AJ horribly.
It was a smack.
It was
I
a
don't-
smack.
It was
it
a
was-
threat against his life.
Yep.
Is that the last word?
I do have
Last
one more
word.
thing to say.
Oh.
Yeah.
I assume everyone else has said their piece.
There's always more to be
I
said.
said my word.
Given the nature of my personality, I do have just 2 more words to say. Star Wars.
I knew it. I knew
Screw
it.
you!
I knew it. I knew it.
I knew it. I knew it.
Especially because you said their piece, and I was like,
I knew it was gonna be
I
something.
know you too much.
I knew it was gonna
was
be
more
something
just-
we should stop him from saying.
It was more just said their piece in terms of he said that he was gonna throw out the next person, and I was like, I wanna.
All right, you're joining the hookers under the stairs.
Oh sweet! Woo!
That's a bad thing.
All right.
Right?
That's
Wait,
it for the night.
how long have they been there?
I
Yes.
think they're dead, given his previous comment about.
Necrophilia.
And
Because
there's-
the last time he mentioned Under the Stairs was when we were talking about, what was it,
Harry
Jaw
Potter?
that you said?
Stop ruining the joke. Okay, that's it.
Okay, sorry.
That's all for the Groupthink Podcast tonight. I think. Thank you guys so much for coming on again.
It'll
Till
be
next
another
time.
year and a half until I'm on again.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Word.